American Comics, Something is Wrong with This Superhero World. Chapter 1. Something is Wrong with This World. On TV, Superman, wearing his iconic uniform with an S symbol on his chest, stood in front of the camera and smiled at the camera. And you, my friend, you are the real hero. After turning off the TV speechlessly, Xiao Xian stood up, walked to the mirror and straightened his clothes. Looking at the handsome guy with black hair and black eyes in the mirror, a smile appeared at the corner of Xiao Xian's mouth. With the blessing of the smile, the originally handsome face became even more charming. It was the second day since Xiao Xian came to this world. After experiencing the ecstasy of the first day, Xiao Xian, who had received most of the memories of his original body, suddenly realized that the superhero world he traveled to seemed different from what he had remembered. It's okay to have all kinds of weird monsters, after all, it's an American comic world. It would be strange if there weren't some monsters as villains, but the superheroes are also wrong. The Flash is suspected of assaulting others multiple times in Hawaii, Iron Man Tony Stark was photographed cheating on multiple people, Batman opened the Wayne Superhero Agency and signed Superman, and the newly debuted Spider-Man was also accused of burglary. The most outrageous thing is this Superman with a smiling face, who looks more like a native than like Superman. For a moment, Xiao Xian almost thought he had traveled to the world of the Black Robe Patrol. After checking the time on his mobile phone, Xiao Xian hurriedly fixed his hair, then immediately went out and knocked on the door of his female neighbor next door. The original body did not leave much inheritance to Xiao Xian, just a second-hand Volkswagen, a small amount of savings, various credit card bills, and a beautiful female neighbor. Originally, Xiao Xian did not inherit everything from his original body, but the original body's memory told Xiao Xian that his female neighbor Jenny was not only rich and gentle, but also very beautiful, not inferior to female stars. The original body had only met Jenny once so far, but was deeply fascinated by her, especially the way Jenny casually gave a stack of tips to the moving staff. Not to mention the original body, even Xiao Xian couldn't control himself. After all, who can refuse a beautiful, well-built rich woman? With a little money from the rich woman, Xiao Xian would have the startup capital to invest in Stark's stocks. After becoming financially independent, he could also invest in various scientific and technological projects such as the research of desperate virus nanotechnology. Moreover, this rich woman was very proactive. After the first meeting, Jenny took the initiative to invite the original body to her house for dinner. She did not act aloof at all, and her words were full of hints. If I have to point out any shortcomings, it is that Jenny is a Japanese. Although she has an English name, she still retains Japanese habits. She uses all kinds of honorifics when speaking and is too polite, which gives people a weird feeling. But shortcomings of this degree are not worth mentioning when one is rich. Besides, being polite and using honorifics is always better than being arrogant or cold. Besides, we are all neighbors. It would be rude not to visit someone if he or she takes the initiative to do so. Xiao Xianjun, I'm glad you can come to my house. At home, Jenny saw Xiao Xian coming to visit, smiled charmingly and waved her hand. Jenny, it's nice to see you again. You look so beautiful today. Looking at Jenny, who was wearing a red dress and had a hot body, Xiao Xian exclaimed sincerely. Although Xiao Xian would say this every time he went on a date with a girl, this time was definitely the most sincere one for him, at least so far. In the original body's memory, Jenny's charm was comparable to that of a top star, but when Xiao Xian saw Jenny in person, he felt that even the most beautiful and charming female star was not as charming as Jenny. The most charming thing about Jenny is not her beautiful face, nor her explosive figure, nor the perfect teardrop mole under her eyes, but her temperament, a temperament that can drive people crazy. Xiao Xian looked at Jenny, and while his inexplicable favor for her increased, he also inexplicably felt a faint murderous intent in his heart, as if he had an impulse in his heart to kill her. Xiao Xian asked himself that although he could not be called naive and kind, he was not to the extent of having murderous intentions towards such a beautiful woman for no reason. After chatting with Jenny for a while, Xiao Xian looked very moved on the surface, but his heart gradually cooled down. There was definitely something wrong with this Jenny. The longer he talked with Jenny, the more heated and ambiguous the topic became, and the more Xiao Xian felt the murderous intent in his heart gradually growing stronger. At this moment, Xiao Xian even had the urge to cut Jenny into pieces. Of course, this level of impulse was not serious to Xiao Xian and he could easily hold it back. After all, if he couldn't even control himself to this extent, Xiao Xian would have chopped his boss into pieces at work. I seem to have forgotten to turn off the gas at home, so I'll go turn it off. Also, my boss seems to want to see me about something at work. With a fascinated and reluctant smile on his face, Xiao Xian looked at Jenny's figure wantonly, then glanced at his phone and said to Jenny. Well, go ahead, Xiao Xianjun. I'll be waiting for you here. You must come back. I've prepared a table of delicious food for you to enjoy. Jenny looked at Xiao Xian's lustful smile. Instead of feeling disgusted, she smiled happily, as if she was enjoying Xiao Xian's gaze very much. Well, I'll try my best. I hope the leader won't have too much to do. Xiao Xian stood up without any reluctance. No matter how good a romantic encounter is, one has to be alive to enjoy it. This is a world of superheroes, and a mutated world of superheroes at that. It is no exaggeration to say that it is full of dangers. Xiao Xian doesn't want to be killed just because of his lust as soon as he crosses over. If you feel stressed, come to me. I will do my best to help you relieve the stress, Xiao Xianjun. Jenny looked at Xiao Xian who stood up, full of hints, or instructions. Yet I will. You're such a nice person, Jenny. With an awkward smile, Xiao Xian looked at the charming Jenny, but vaguely saw a monster-like terrifying face next to her. Jenny, excuse me, what's your Japanese name? With a twitching mouth, Xiao Xian looked at the charming Jenny, especially the teardrop mole under her eye and asked. Charm, murderous intent, scary face, Japanese, these elements combined, a name was about to come out in Xiao Xian's mind. Tomi Kawakami. Jenny, or Tomi Kawakami, said with a charming smile. What a nice name, Tomi-chan, I'll come visit you next time when I'm free. His heartbeat was speeding up wildly, but on the surface, Xiao Xian still forced a smile and waved his hand to say goodbye. Then the next second, a ding sound rang in Xiao Xian's mind, and then a light curtain appeared in Xiao Xian's perspective. Hey, the system is bound, ding mission, Tomi? Tomi. Triggered mission name, Tomi? Tomi. Mission description, you are being targeted by Tomi, but don't worry, as long as you have strong willpower, you will not be seduced by Tomi or be overwhelmed by hatred. Task requirements, the total time spent with Tomi exceeds 60 minutes, progress 3/60ths. Mission reward, Tomi Super Regeneration, revised. Tomi Super Regeneration, revised. Tomi's Super Regeneration ability has been improved. The effect of regenerating another self when the flesh and blood are separated from the body has been removed, but the regeneration effect is retained. Even if there is only one drop of blood left, a cell can rely on nutrients, hatred, etc. to recover. When regenerating, the body parts that account for a large proportion of the brain are prioritized for regeneration. When the brain is not present, the body parts that account for a large proportion of the flesh and blood are prioritized for regeneration. Chapter 2. Fun things. Super Regeneration. Xiao Xian's breathing immediately became heavier as he looked at the system's description. In this dangerous world of superheroes, super regeneration is an extremely powerful life-saving skill. Why is Deadpool so arrogant? It's because he can't die with super regeneration. Before Deadpool gained the ability to regenerate, he could block every bullet with his sword. After gaining the ability to regenerate, he just had to pretend to block and block, since he wouldn't die anyway. Although the super regeneration ability is a recovery skill, it is actually not bad on the offensive level. Without the constraint of death, you can just aim and not dodge bullets during a gunfight, and exchange injuries with others during close combat, which can bring a leap in combat effectiveness. I think it would be nice if we could chat for a while. Xiao Xian glanced at the system, then immediately turned back and sat opposite Tomi. He looked into her eyes and said, "Has anyone ever told you that your eyes are beautiful? They're like the stars in the night sky, mysterious and bright." Tomi covered her mouth and laughed, pretending to be shy and said, "Thank you, do you say this to every girl?" "It depends on whether they are as beautiful as you. If there are other girls as beautiful as you, I think it will be hard for me to resist saying it." Xiao Xian looked at Tomi, feeling the desire and murderous intent in his heart. It seemed that they were still within his tolerance range. He originally thought that it was difficult to resist, but in the end it felt okay. All we can say is that the former is grateful to the many Japanese teachers, and the latter is grateful to the boss with cerebellar atrophy in the previous life. Ha ha ha, little brother is really good at talking. Pulling her collar, Fu Zhang stretched, looked at Xiao Xian charmingly, and threw a wink. "Little brother, you talk so nicely, is there something you want to do with me, your sister?" To be honest, there really is. Looking at the sexy Tomi, Xiao Xian nodded and said, I think we get along pretty well. Why don't we do something fun together? Oh, what do you want to do, brother? Tomi didn't seem shy or angry at all, and didn't care about Xiao Xian's gaze at all. Instead, she adjusted her posture and showed off her figure generously. Of course it's a two-player game. Xiao Xian grinned and took out his phone and said, Sister, do you want to play King of Glory? Let's play a game. I'm a very good Han Xin. I'll help you rank up in a duo. Ah! Tomi was stunned and looked at Xiao Xian. She was about to take off her clothes, and Xiao Xian told her this. Two-player game refers to double row? Is the game geek so straight? He left another two-player game and played King of Glory with her. I don't have this on my phone. Why don't we go to the bedroom and I'll show you something nice? Looking at Xiao Xian who opened the game seriously, Tomi raised her feet and her red high heels swayed in front of Xiao Xian. I have two mobile phones, and the spare one happens to have King of Glory. Come, sister, I'll teach you how to play. Just pick a Yao at level 4 and follow me. I'll lead you. Taking out another mobile phone from his pocket, Xiao Xian smiled slightly, stuffed the phone directly into Fujiang's hand, and opened the King of Glory. Fortunately, he had a backup phone and more than one account. Following Timmy's notification, Xiao Xian sat next to Tomi, helped her log into her account, and started a double row. Watching Xiao Xian sitting next to her, opening a room for her and choosing Yao, Fujiang turned her head and looked carefully at Xiao Xian's expression. He was choosing heroes, rune pages and equipment very seriously. There seemed to be no problem and he did not notice anything unusual about himself. The left side is for movement, the right side is for skills, and this is for health. Just buy whatever is available in the store over here. Help clear the mid lane first, and come back to me later. If you have any questions, ask me. When the game started, Xiao Xian went straight to Hong Bafu. As time went by, his desire and murderous intent became stronger and stronger. Relying on games to divert his attention was a good way. Not only do you have to hit, but you have to hit seriously, so that you can better divert your attention. Oh! Faced with something completely unfamiliar, Tomi started to operate in a daze. As a result, as soon as she came online, she was hooked twice by the opponent's Zhong Kui, and then was killed by the opponent's mid lane Ahn Kiraj. Her own mid lane Gao Jianli also died in order to save Tomi. Then, the mid lane Gao Jianli directly opened the microphone. No. Yao, what are you doing? You're just standing there like a fool. You don't even know how to move. Don't you know how to dodge the hook from Zhong Kui on the opposite side? You've got me killed. If you don't know how to play, don't play, okay? What the hell are you playing? Pulling the corner of her mouth, Tomi showed a dangerous smile on her face, and pulled the corner of Xiao Xian's clothes who was playing in the wild and asked, how do I send this voice message? Oh, this is easy. You can speak just by pressing this. Xiao Xian looked at the kind smile on Tomi's face and told Tomi how to speak. Taking a deep breath, Fujiang said in her charming voice, I'm sorry, brother. This is my first time playing this game. I don't know how to play it. Oh my god. Little sister. And she has a queen-like voice. Gao Jianli's voice came from the phone, his words full of shock. The next second, the top laner Arthur also opened the microphone, and the first thing he said was a full sound of bubbles. Don't be sad, little sister. The mid laner is too bad and speaks harshly. Don't follow him. Just follow me. Arthur in our national server has a gentle personality and never curses in games. He will definitely help you win without any effort. By the way, add me as a friend after this game. I'm sorry. Miss. I was wrong. I didn't know you were a woman. Gao Jianli's voice came from the phone, followed by a few coughs, and Gao Jianli's voice immediately turned into bubbling sound. Ahem, it's all my fault. I made a careless mistake just now. Don't listen to that noob in the top lane. Follow me. Next time, I will not die once and become a god. I will definitely lead you to victory. Thank you, brothers are all fine, Tomi is fine, it's very manly for boys to curse, so manly, let's add each other as friends after this game. Tomi's smile became more dangerous and smug. She said to the phone, but Tomi can only be with one person. Oh, it's so confusing. You can speak Chinese too. Xiao Xian asked in surprise as he looked at Tomi, who was communicating fluently. I can speak many languages. Tomi winked at Xiao Xian mischievously. Follow me. The mid-laner Gao Jianli shouted in the voice chat, he's only Arthur and he wants to be the carry, what the hell is the carry? I, Gao Jianli, am fighting 5 alone. Follow me. What the hell, I'm giving you face, right? What kind of loser dares to compete with me? Can you be AC? Do you have the ability? You're useless. Arthur, the top laner, was not polite at all. He seemed to be irritated by Tomi's words that it was very manly for a boy to curse at others, and he started to speak aggressively. What did you say? How dare you scold me? You. The words became garbled, and it could be seen that the mid-laner Gao Jianli was really angry, and he greeted the top laner with a bunch of family tree greetings. I have a bad temper. Where are you? Tell me, if you have the guts, just tell me. Let's meet offline. Whoever is scared is a grandson. Arthur did not tolerate the mid-laner Gao Jianli at all, and directly invited him to a real-life duel. I'm not afraid of you. You're a piece of trash. The mid-laner Gao Jianli also responded immediately. Chapter 3. Super Regeneration. Hey, don't fight over me. Just follow the jungler this time. Tomi was delighted to see the two fighting for her. She said to her phone, after this game, I'll follow whoever is the best in the next game. After all, Tomi likes the best brothers the most. Let your record speak for itself. This person was adding fuel to the fire. Looking at Tomi, Xiao Xian said before the two of them started to criticize him. As a veteran game player and Zhuan master, Xiao Xian was not afraid of not being able to win the argument with these two people, but was worried about being provoked to anger in front of Tomi. Tisk. Just wait and see. I will show you what real skills are. Upon hearing this, mid-laner Gao Jianli temporarily gave up his plan to talk big and went online to start operating seriously. Half a minute later, Gao Jianli was hit by Ahn Kiraj's second skill again and was taken away by the 5 fireballs that followed. My hand slipped and I made a mistake. My playing feel isn't very good today. Mainly because Ahn Kiraj was not easy to fight after getting 2 kills. But it's okay. Just wait and see how I control her. By the time I reach level 4, she'll be dead. Gao Jianli forced an explanation. Seeing that Kiraj, with half of his health left, was attacking his own tower, Xiao Xian said nothing and took Tomi to go around behind him, used his first skill to block the stun, and then used a set of skills and basic attacks to kill Kiraj. It's mainly because I was injured that the jungler was able to pick up this kill. In fact, if you had come earlier, I wouldn't have died. Gao Jianli expressed his opinion again upon seeing this. Just be a loser, why make so many excuses? Top laner Arthur mercilessly exposed Gao Jianli's rookie nature. What did you say? Say it again if you dare. Believe it or not, I will kill you. Gao Jianli was completely defeated when he heard this and directly cursed the top laner Arthur. Just say it, I'm not afraid of you. You useless rookie. Miss, please don't follow him, follow me, I'm not like that loser like him. Arthur was not at all afraid and directly scolded Gao Jianli. Where are you? Tell me your address, you rubbish. I'll deal with you if I don't. Gao Jianli was so angry that his voice couldn't even maintain the bubbling sound, and he said angrily. Come and report it, I'm not afraid of you. I'm at Bashu University, come if you're brave. If you don't come, your whole family will die. Arthur didn't show any fear and started the family tree test directly. Gao Jianli did not respond, but hung up the phone directly. Fu Zhang covered her mouth and laughed. This game is really fun. I've been idle for a while. Let's click on it later. Let's go and play a match. Xiao Xian said seriously, looking like a senior otaku who was very distressed about the points, with a lot of thoughts in his mind. Could Tomi's ability be activated over the internet? Or could it be transmitted through sound? Also, did Gao Jianli really go to the offline PK? Is Tomi's ability so strong, or is this person's brain just that bad? Xiao Xian remembered Tomi in the comics, who liked to watch her suitors kill each other. It seemed that this was something Tomi could do. Looking at the time on the system, Xiao Xian had been with Fu Zhang for 20 minutes, but both his love and hatred were still within the controllable range. Xiao Xian felt that there were several possibilities. For example, because Xiao Xian knew that the other party was Tomi, he was already alert in his heart, always paying attention to not being seduced by Tomi or tempted to kill her. Or, during the process of traveling through time, Xiao Xian's soul may have undergone some unknown changes, so he became resistant to Tomi's influence. Okay. Tomi raised the corners of her mouth, as if she had found some new toy. She happily held the phone and started the next game with Xiao Xian. He played 2 more games with Tomi. At the end of the second game, Xiao Xian looked at the system's time progress bar with great anticipation as it filled up. With a ding sound, the system gave a prompt that the task was completed. Ding! Mission Tomi? Tomi. Completed, get reward Tomi Super Regeneration, revised. As the system prompted, Xiao Xian felt that his body had undergone some changes. He had a feeling that even if his head was chopped off, he would not die. Of course, on the surface, Xiao Xian remained calm as he accompanied Fu Zhang to finish the game, then said goodbye. After returning home, he took out a knife and cut a 1 centimeter long wound on his hand. Why isn't it healing yet? After looking at the wound on his arm for a minute, Xiao Xian felt itchy, but it did not recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. Xiao Xian began to recall Tomi's regenerative ability in the comics. In the comics, Tomi could recover with only 1 cell and 1 drop of blood left, but the recovery speed seemed to be average most of the time, not to the extent that she could completely grow a body in a few days. However, in her later years, Tomi seemed to recover extremely quickly. After being burned by fire, her cells escaped directly into the air and she returned to her human form in an instant. He looked at the skill description again. Super regeneration ability that can rely on nutrients, hatred, etc. to recover. He couldn't figure out what this was for the time being, but Xiao Xian understood nutrients and hatred. He opened the refrigerator, took out a bag of bread, and ate the whole loaf in no time. However, perhaps because it takes time for people to digest food, Xiao Xian did not feel that his recovery speed had increased for the time being. It seems I need to prepare some glucose or something. It will be digested much faster if injected directly than eating. Xiao Xian thought of it immediately after touching his chin. Then, let's try another one, hatred. Xiao Xian took out his cell phone, searched the original body's memory, thought for a moment, and sent a message to the original body's friend Jack. Jack, there is one thing I have to confess to you. In fact, I had sex with your ex-girlfriend while you were dating her. Not only me, but also David. He slept with your ex-girlfriend, and he didn't take any safety measures. I hope you can forgive me. Then Xiao Xian sent another message to David. David, I told Jack about your relationship with Jack's ex-girlfriend. If you're around him, you'd better be careful. After sending the 2 messages, Jack called back immediately. Xiao Xian thought for a moment and answered the call. What? Xiao Xian, is this some weird truth or dare game? Or a prank challenge? Jack said in disbelief as soon as he answered the phone. I'm sorry Jack. It was your ex-girlfriend Beth who took the initiative. I couldn't control myself. Xiao Xian looked at the wound on his hand and felt that the itchiness had increased a lot. The wound was getting lighter at a speed visible to the naked eye. It seemed that hatred could really increase the recovery speed. Xiao Xian. I just reconciled with Beth. I even planned to propose to her. Jack's collapsed voice came from the other end of the phone. Ah, sorry, I didn't know that. I thought you guys had broken up completely. Xiao Xian touched his nose after hearing that. After all, you said at the time that you 2 couldn't get back together. Beep, beep, beep. The only response to Xiao Xian was the busy tone after the phone was hung up. Chapter 4. Young Aunt May. 10 minutes later, under Xiao Xian's gaze, the wound on his hand had completely healed. Although it was only a small wound, the fact that it healed completely in just 10 minutes was enough to prove the power of super regeneration. The power of super regeneration lies in the fact that it can regenerate even if only 1 cell is left. As for the recovery rate, it does seem a little slow now, but it is actually not weak. More importantly, the regeneration rate can be increased by nutrients and the hatred of others. Take Tomi in the later part of the comics as an example. When she was burned by fire, her cells escaped directly into the air and she was restored to her human form in an instant. Theoretically, as long as there are enough people who hate Xiao Xian and their hatred is strong enough, Xiao Xian can also be reborn instantly like Tomi. However, if he is hated to that extent, he will most likely die miserably immediately. After all, this is a hybrid world of Marvel and DC, not Tomi's comic world. Not to mention super regeneration, even if he can summon himself from the timeline, or even infinitely rewind his time to before he was killed after being killed, he will still be in trouble if he offends someone he shouldn't. Of course, if the regenerative ability reaches that level, as long as you don't offend God, OA, life court, and the like, it won't be easy to die on Earth, and your safety will be guaranteed, at least on the physical side. On the mental side, if someone directly destroys your soul, Xiao Xian doesn't know if the super regenerative ability can bring it back. Enduring the pain, Xiao Xian cut off several pieces of his own flesh and blood. He decided to hide his flesh and blood in some hidden and safe place to prevent himself from dying suddenly by accident. Xiao Xian took a few pieces of his own flesh and blood and went out to hide them. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Daniel upstairs knocking on Tomi's door with an expectant look on his face. A small umbrella could be vaguely seen in his clothes pocket. "I'm just visiting my neighbors, being friendly with them." Seeing Xiao Xian, Daniel was obviously panicked. He scratched his head awkwardly to explain, and then looked at Xiao Xian with a pleading face. "You won't tell my wife, right? $500. Pointing to Daniel's pocket containing the small umbrella, Xiao Xian stretched out his hand and calmly reported the number. Xiao Xian had no interest in saving Daniel, a guy who cheated on his wife, but Daniel was going to die anyway, so instead of leaving the money to Tomi, he might as well give himself some money as start-up capital. Damn! Daniel cursed unwillingly, then reluctantly took out his wallet, counted out 500 yuan and gave it to Xiao Xian. "Goodbye." After putting away the money, Xiao Xian smiled, walked around Daniel and pressed the elevator door. For the sake of the money, he hoped that Daniel would not discover Tomi's true appearance while playing poker, so that at least he would not die so disgustingly. Of course, being targeted by Tomi does not necessarily mean death, but it is possible that life will be worse than death. After going downstairs and starting the second-hand Volkswagen left to him by his original body, Xiao Xian carefully selected some places to hide his own flesh and blood cells. Finally, he even put a drop of his own blood in a bottle and threw it into the sea. In this way, even if New York was flattened by nuclear weapons, he would not die. Of course, the amount of blood put into the drifting bottle is the least. After all, Xiao Xian doesn't want to find himself on an uninhabited island after being reborn. He can't swim back to the civilized world at that time, right? After hiding his flesh and blood, Xiao Xian did not go back immediately, but went to a real estate agency and planned to move to another place. Although Xiao Xian has temporarily withstood Tomi's mental pollution and has super regeneration, so he is not afraid of being dismembered by Tomi's other suitors, Xiao Xian still feels it is very dangerous to live next to Tomi. On the one hand, the danger comes from Tomi. Tomi's inherent assimilation attribute is too terrifying, especially the mental impact. Once she is hit, even super regeneration cannot save her. On the other hand, as a monster, Tomi might attract various beings, such as superheroes. In addition, the setting that different Tomi kill each other also leads to the possibility that other Tomi might deliberately attract some beings to kill this Tomi. When he was scattering his own flesh and blood everywhere, Xiao Xian had already decided where he wanted to move to, which was near Spider-Man's home. The reason for choosing Spider-Man is very simple. As a well-known superhero and the protagonist of the Marvel world, Xiao Xian feels that Spider-Man and the people around him have a great chance of completing the task. Even if they can't, maybe he can get a symbiote suit to play with in the future. Moreover, the damage caused by Spider-Man and most of his enemies is physical, which poses no threat to Xiao Xian, who has super regeneration. Finally, there is another important reason, that is, Spider-Man's real identity is Peter Parker. The place where he lives is cheap and easy to find, which is very friendly to Xiao Xian, who is short of money and has no connections. Following the real estate agent to view the house, among several rooms, the one closest to Peter's house was even right across the street. When Xiao Xian discovered that this room was vacant, he decided in his heart that this was the one he wanted without any hesitation. Of course, he made the decision without hesitation. On the surface, Xiao Xian still acted picky and pointed out a series of problems with the house, including ventilation, floor level, and old age, in order to lower the rent. However, there was no other way. The original owner was used to spending ahead of time and did not leave much money for Xiao Xian. Strictly speaking, the savings that the original body left for Xiao Xian were not enough to pay off the bills for his installment purchases, such as the iPhone and the second-hand Volkswagen, which were all bought with loans from the original body, and the loans have not yet been repaid. Speaking of iPhone, if Xiao Xian wasn't worried that his personality would be affected by other people's memories if he was reborn from someone else's body, he would almost want to go through special channels to make money. Anyway, Xiao Xian would not die even if he was drained of money now. However, relying on his super regenerative ability, it might not be a bad idea to become a killer or something like that. Anyway, Xiao Xian had no intention of going back to inherit his original career and becoming a plumber. The salary was actually okay, but it was hard-earned money and he could just get by, but there was no hope of becoming a capitalist overnight even if he worked for another 100 years. What's more important is that this is America and not Neon. If it were in Neon, a plumber is such a promising career, Xiao Xian wouldn't mind continuing to work part-time even if he became rich. After bargaining for a long time, it was not until the evening that Xiao Xian shook hands with the sales manager and signed the rental contract. Just after they signed the contract, a sexy aunt knocked on the door and said very friendly, "Are you the new tenant here? Your door was not closed, and I happened to hear it." "Yes, you are." Xiao Xianming asked knowingly as he looked at the sexy aunt in front of him who looked very similar to Marissa Tomei. She looked even younger and more beautiful than the Aunt May in Holland's movie. Among the 3 versions of Aunt May, only this one looked so young. Of course, the word young and beautiful doesn't seem quite appropriate. Women of this age should be described as mature and charming, just like a ripe peach. So, Spider-Man is also the Holland version? Xiao Xian thought about it and decided that it didn't have to be this version. After all, no matter which version of Spider-Man it was, it would be impossible for him to break into a house and rob a house, just like no matter which version of Batman was in the movie, he would not open a superhero agency and sign Superman. "I live next door, and I thought since we'll be neighbors in the future, I'd come over to say hello," Aunt May said with a smile. "Oh, I'll definitely visit you when I officially move in." Xiao Xian nodded and said politely. This Aunt May looked quite normal, at least much more normal than Superman saying to the camera, "And you, my friend, you are the real hero. Okay, goodbye, I'm going to prepare dinner for my nephew." Aunt May gestured, lifting the plastic bag in her hand. "Goodbye." Xiao Xian waved his hand in response. Chapter 5. Tomi's Joy. Driving a second-hand Volkswagen, Xiao Xian returned to the rental house. The furniture left by the original owner was not valuable, but now it was the starting stage. He wanted to spend $1 as if it were 2 halves. He could save a little on furniture, especially identity documents, computers, various certificates, and the like, which he had to bring with him after all, especially the computer, which contained browser records. He took the elevator upstairs and confirmed that Tomi's door was not open. Then Xiao Xian quietly returned to his room. Because the room was not soundproofed, he could vaguely hear the noises from next door. "What kind of garbage is this? Go get some caviar. Give me some black truffles. You useless piece of shit." Tomi's disgusted and insulting voice came from the other side of the wall. It was hard to imagine that such bad words and tone would come from the mouth of Tomi, who was so polite and courteous during the day. But Xiao Xian knew that this was Tomi's normal situation. Before the man fell in love with her, Tomi was obedient and docile like a little bird. But after he fell in love with her, she cheated on him, scolded him, despised him, and laughed at him. In short, she did everything she could to make people dislike her, until the man couldn't stand it anymore and killed Tomi out of hatred. The killed Tomi will not only not die, but her body will be cut into several pieces and several new Tomis will be produced. If the pieces are broken enough like in the comics, it is possible that a reinforced group of Tomi will be born at once. If it weren't for the setting that Tomi would kill each other, with Tomi's perverted ability of self-derivation, Tomi would have been running all over the streets long ago. "I'm very sorry, Tomi, but I have no money on me. I will buy it for you as soon as I get my salary." Daniel apologized humbly. He packed up his things quickly, and his dog-licking look gave Xiao Xian goosebumps just by listening to it. "Do I have to starve until you pay me? Go find money, you bastard. Sell your house. Sell your kidney. Steal. Rob. I don't care what method you use. Hurry up and get me the money. Otherwise, get out. I'll find another man to satisfy me." Tomi's angry voice was heard, and at the same time, Daniel's wailing voice was heard. It was probably Tomi who took action. "No, no, no. Please, Tomi. Don't leave me, and don't find another man. I don't know how to live without you. I'll go get some money right away." Daniel, who was beaten, was not angry. Instead, he apologized immediately, looking so sad that he was reduced to dust. Go away. Tomi said bluntly. This kind of prey who had no resistance to her charm was the most boring to her. In just one afternoon, Daniel completely abandoned his sense of responsibility as a husband and father, as well as his human dignity, and completely fell at her feet. What Tomi likes most is watching those strong-willed men, preferably those who are deeply in love with other women, fall under her spell little by little after tremendous struggle, and finally fall completely in love with Tomi and become her slaves. Then Tomi ruthlessly abandoned the other person, causing him to kill her in pain. Then her whole life fell into endless darkness and pain. This was Tomi's favorite pleasure. Unfortunately, as Tomi's charm becomes stronger and stronger, it becomes increasingly difficult to find men who can resist her charm. Most of them are like Daniel, who are mesmerized by her charm at first sight, and in the following coexistence, they completely become her slaves in less than a day. For a man of this quality, Tomi didn't even have the desire to be killed by him. Daniel was like this, he had been devoted to him for a long time, but Tomi had just gotten into the mood and hadn't had enough fun, but she was killed just like that. Her life was too boring. Moreover, if the news of being killed by such a loser got out, Tomi would feel ashamed in front of other Tomis. Get out of here, get out of here. Daniel said in a flattering manner and was about to leave. He quickly packed up the most important documents and took some valuables with him. As for the furniture, he would talk about it another day, or just forget about it. Xiao Xian rushed to the elevator before Daniel, and saw that the elevator had been used. Without hesitation, Xiao Xian ran away by the stairs. He had a hunch that Tomi would come to find him next, so it was better to stay away from this monster. Watching Daniel leave, Tomi thought of her neighbor Xiao Xian during the day. Although the game nerd's personality was not to her liking, he could stay with her for an hour and then not come to see her for the whole afternoon. His willpower was pretty good. Originally, Tomi planned to wait for Xiao Xian to come to her and then expose her relationship with Daniel to see what Xiao Xian's expression would be at that time. The ambiguous goddess neighbor was actually having an affair with the uncle upstairs. The simple game otaku would definitely go crazy at that time, then Tomi planned to let Xiao Xian and Daniel kill each other for her, and told them that only one of them could survive, and only the winner was worthy of being with her. But no matter who wins or loses, Tomi will abandon the winner. She will hug the third man, laugh at the winner in front of him, and call the police to send the man who thinks he can get her after winning to prison, making him spend the rest of his life in pain. Decades later, when that man is released from prison, he will want to take revenge on her with the hatred that has been brewing for decades, but he will inevitably become her slave again, and finally repeat the same mistake and be abandoned by her again. That will be an extreme pleasure. There is no other way. It is hard to find a man with a strong will nowadays. In Tomi's long life, she has to find some fun for herself. The quality is not good enough, so she has to make up for it with the plot. Now because Xiao Xian didn't come, Tomi's plan was disrupted, but Tomi was not angry. Instead, she was very happy. The script and other things could be arranged at any time, but it was not easy to find a man with a strong will. After all, the script is just a substitute for her when she can't find a strong-willed man. The more such men do not follow the script, and the more likely they are to be able to resist her charm, the more interesting they are, and the more pleasing it makes Tomi. Of course, until now, Tomi has not met a man who can truly resist her charm. Perhaps other individuals have encountered it, but Tomi, so far, has not experienced such top-level pleasure. Tomi opened the door and glanced casually. Daniel was still waiting for the elevator. When he saw Tomi coming out, he greeted her with a flattering smile. Tomi. I'm waiting for the elevator. Don't worry, I'll get the money to buy you caviar soon. You're such a nagging useless guy. Tomi glanced at Daniel with disdain. In front of Daniel, she nonchalantly lowered her collar, revealing her snow-white skin, and then knocked on Xiao Xian's door. Tomi? What do you want from Xiao Xian? Daniel said very humbly when he saw Tomi pulling down her collar and knocking on Xiao Xian's door. He wanted to question Tomi about her clothes, but was afraid that Tomi would be angry. Is there even a need to ask? Since you can't satisfy me, of course I have to find someone who can. Tomi had no intention of hiding her doubts about Daniel. In her eyes, this toy had no value. She didn't really need money to buy caviar. She made the request just to torture Daniel. If there were no interesting toys, she might have played with them for a while out of boredom, but now she seemed to have found a more interesting toy, Toys of this quality were still broken, and she no longer had much interest in them. She only hoped that the other party would pay with his life in the end to give her even a little pleasure. Chapter 6. I'm going to throw some dust in your eyes. Holding the things, Xiao Xian walked down the stairs. When he reached the first floor, he breathed a sigh of relief. But before he walked out of the door, a black shadow fell from the sky with a bang and landed on the ground, almost hitting Xiao Xian, which scared him. You scared me. I almost forgot that I have super regeneration now. I can be chopped into 8 or 10 pieces without any problem. After comforting himself in his heart, Xiao Xian looked at the falling black shadow. You don't know until you see it. You will be shocked to find that the person falling is Daniel, whose face is facing upwards. At this moment, he is looking upstairs with horror, as if he is terribly frightened. There is a pool of blood on the ground, and it is obvious that Daniel is dead. Following Daniel's line of sight and looking upwards, Xiao Xian saw a horrible monster. It was a monster made up of countless large and small Tomy heads piled together. Just one glance at it was enough to make one's sanity drop. When Xiao Xian saw the monster also saw Xiao Xian, and countless heads together showed a charming smile to Xiao Xian. The next second, his vision became blurred and there was no scary monster there. There was only a stunning beauty, Tomy, standing at the window, showing Xiao a charming smile. But at this moment, Xiao Xian no longer felt any excitement, he just felt palpitations. This monster was too low in sanity. In any case, Daniel died, and he died in front of Xiao Xian. In order to prevent suspicion from being cast upon himself and getting into unnecessary trouble, Xiao Xian quickly called NYPD and explained the situation. Of course, Xiao Xian didn't mention anything about Tomy on the phone, he only said that he saw Daniel fall. Tomy is a monster with full charm. If Xiao Xianzhen reports Tomy, he may encounter a situation where some American politician who is fascinated by Tomy protects Tomy. After all, this is a superhero world, and the official America is almost synonymous with waste and sieve. If there were no superheroes, they would have been destroyed 1,000 times long ago. Besides, even in a normal world, the American police and officials are not that reliable. It would be embarrassing if it turned out that Xiao Xian murdered Daniel. There are so many supermen in this world, and there is no future in being a villain. If it were a normal superhero world, Xiao Xian could also send an email to Batman, send a message to Spider-Man, and ask them to deal with Tomy. But in this world, Batman looks like a street lamp pendant, Superman looks like a Homelander, Spider-Man is a burglar, and the Flash is a Hawaiian god of war. Xiao Xian won't count on them until he figures out the situation. Anyway, as long as Xiao Xian is not fascinated by Tomy and takes the initiative to stay away from Tomy, there will be no danger. Wait until Xiao Xian relies on the strength of the system to get stronger, or meets a reliable superhero, then he can deal with Tomy. Anyway, when Tomy makes trouble, she is also making trouble in America, so it's better for the people of America to suffer a little more. Anyway, they, as supervillains, don't have to worry about how many debts they have, and the American officials will bear the blame. It was almost the same as Xiao Xian had guessed. When the police arrived, Tomy cried pitifully and told how Daniel forced her and how she accidentally pushed Daniel down the stairs while resisting. The New York police officers immediately believed her statement and did not even question her too much. Especially after evidence containing Daniel's DNA was found in Tomy's home, several young male police officers cursed and said Daniel deserved to die, and turned to sympathize with Tomy. As a witness, Xiao Xian did not stay for long. After confirming that he was just passing by, he made a statement and was released. After going to a supermarket and buying daily necessities such as bedding and pillows, and a bottle of red wine, Xiao Xian did not go back to his home near Tomy, but returned to the house next to Spider-Man. He would contact the landlord later to see if he could get a refund, or become a sub-landlord and rent out the house. Wrapping a ribbon around the red wine, Xiao Xian knocked on Spider-Man's door with the red wine. "Who are you?" The person who opened the door was a white young man. He was not wearing glasses and looked like a loser. His appearance was not what Xiao Xian expected. He did not look like Tom Holland but rather looked quite similar to Tobey Maguire. This person was most likely Peter Parker. "I'm your neighbor who lives across from you. I just moved here today and wanted to visit you. This is a little gift I prepared. I hope you like it. I met your aunt once during the day. She said she would prepare dinner for you, so we didn't talk much." Xiao Xian said with a smile, handing the red wine to Peter. "Oh, I understand. Peter Parker took the red wine from Xiao Xian, adjusted his bangs, looked at Xiao Xian and said, I received the gift. Stay away from Aunt May, otherwise don't blame me for being rude. Peter Parker closed the door immediately after saying that. Ah? Wait, Xiao Xian was confused. They didn't even let him in? This was too rude. And he just came over as a neighbor to say hello. How could he have any bad intentions towards Aunt May? Peter? Who's here? Xiao Xian vaguely heard Aunt May's voice. Insurance salesman. I sent him away, Peter replied. Xiao Xian outside the door. Looking at the tightly closed door, Xiao Xian's mouth twitched twice. At least now he knew that the media might not be talking nonsense and that this Spider-Man might indeed be able to break into houses and rob. Judging from Peter's expression and look just now, if he had said to Xiao Xian, I'm going to throw some dust in your eyes, Xiao Xian would not be surprised at all. If Peter was possessed by venom, Xiao Xian felt that it was normal for him to do so, but the problem was that the Green Goblin hadn't come out yet and Spider-Man had just made his debut, so venom should not have appeared at this point, right? Shrugging his shoulders, Xiao Xian returned to his room. Xiao Xian didn't really care about Peter's behavior. He was thick-skinned anyway, so he just needed to write it down in a small notebook. The only pity is that there are no new tasks. Xiao Xian was quite greedy for Spider-Man's super strength, super agility, spider stamina, spider sense, and other abilities. The next morning, after finishing breakfast, Xiao Xian was sitting in a chair thinking about how to make money when the doorbell suddenly rang. Who is it? Xiao Xian asked. If it was insurance or something, he would not bother to open the door. However, if it was Aunt May coming to visit, it was not impossible to open the door. It's me. Tommy's charming voice came from the other side of the door. Why didn't you tell me that you moved? I was scared when I got home last night, and I wanted to find you to comfort me, but I didn't expect you didn't come back the whole night. I asked around and found out that you moved. After thinking for a while, Xiao Xian opened the door and smiled at the extremely beautiful Fuzhong at the door. I just moved here and haven't had time to tell anyone yet. How did you find out about this, sister? I don't think I've told anyone yet. I asked a friend at the police station. When Fuzhong saw the door open, she pushed Xiao Xian into the room and closed the door with her high heels. Sister, I'm so scared. What happened yesterday, can you comfort me? Chapter 7. Top Prey. Fuzhong looked at Xiao Xian with tender eyes. She held Xiao Xian's hand tightly and was about to pull it towards her chest. If Fujiang's appearance in the bullish state yesterday had not been too scary, Xiao Xian might have been moved. Thinking of the monster he saw yesterday, Xiao Xian subconsciously took a step back and pulled his hand out of Tommy. Just as he was about to say something, he saw the system prompt. Ding, mission finished. You are being targeted by Tommy. Triggered. Mission name, finished. You are being targeted by Tommy. Task description, your avoidance has instead aroused Tommy's hunting mentality. The more you resist, the more interested she becomes in you. But that doesn't mean you will give in. Mission requirements, resist Tommy's pursuit for a week, 0/7. Mission reward, Tommy Super Regeneration, Modified Plus. Tommy Super Regeneration, Modified Plus. The enhanced version of Tommy Super Regeneration, Modified, no longer defaults to regenerating around the brain or the tissue with the most flesh and blood. Instead, after death, you can freely choose to regenerate around a certain piece of flesh and blood. Enhanced version of Tommy Super Regeneration, Revised. Xiao Xian was excited when he saw the skill description. Although the original Tommy Super Regeneration, Revised, was powerful, if someone knew her skill, she would be captured and only need to control her largest flesh and blood part to guard her body. Even if she could regenerate, she would still be captured by the other party. In a sense, it might be better to die completely. But after the upgrade, Tommy Super Regeneration, Modified Plus, can freely choose the core flesh and blood for regeneration. Theoretically, as long as Xiao Xian's flesh and blood are spread across enough places and the regeneration speed is fast enough, this skill can even be used as teleportation. As long as even a single cell is left at the target location, Xiao Xian can use this ability to teleport to the target immediately. After completing the target, he can commit suicide and teleport back immediately. Sister Fuzhong, I understand your feelings. You are a good person. Xiao Xian looked at the surprised Fuzhong and said, but we are not suitable for each other, really. The mission introduction said that the more resistance there is to Tomi, the more interested she will be. In order to prevent Tomi from stopping pursuing him after 2 days, Xiao Xian decided to retreat in order to advance. He should arouse Tomi's interest first, and at least let Tomi pursue him for 7 days. Anyway, Xiao Xian has super regeneration, so he will be fine even if he is pushed down the stairs or even dismembered. Are you rejecting me? Sure enough, Tomi licked her lips. Instead of being angry or disappointed, she looked at Xiao Xiandao with an expression as if she had found an interesting prey. That's right, we are not suitable. Xiao Xian shook his head and said, please go back, Sister Fu Zhang. You really have no interest in me at all. Tomi looked at Xiao Xian in disbelief. Before, even the people who could resist her charm the most would be very conflicted and painful when facing her. But Xiao Xian in front of her refused so resolutely. This was the first time Tomi had seen such a situation. But this not only did not discourage Tomi, but instead aroused Tomi's competitive spirit. Her interest in Xiao Xian reached a new level. Now the more Xiao Xian resisted and rejected her, the greater the pleasure he would bring to her when he knelt down at her feet. I'm sorry. Xiao Xian shook his head. If he couldn't see Tomi's true form, he wouldn't know what kind of person she was. Even if it was just for a friendly match, Xiao Xian would not refuse such a peerless beauty. But now he knew what Tomi's true identity looked like, and what kind of monster she was. No matter how beautiful Tomi was in front of him, and Xiao Xian had no problem with his brain, even if he was single, even if he went out to spend some money, he would never play a friendly match with Tomi, let alone be with Tomi. However, from the perspective of the system, Tomi is really a treasure girl. She has completed 2 tasks for Xiao Xian in a row, unlike Spider-Man, who has not completed any task yet. I won't give up, Xiao Xian brother, you have successfully attracted my attention. Fu Zhang looked at Xiao Xian with a smile on her face. She looked at Xiao Xian as if she was looking at a delicious meal. You will fall in love with me soon, I promise. Feeling a little scared by Tomi's eyes, and also shocked by Tomi's Mary Sue's words, Xiao Xian raised the corners of his mouth and looked at Tomi with the eyes of a game boss who could explode props. Really? I don't think so. I like the look of your eyes. Not only did Tomi not care about Xiao Xian's aggressive look, but she quickened her breathing, bit her lips, and had a very happy expression. Come on, this is an M, and fighting back with her eyes is actually rewarding her. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Xiao Xian waved his hand, and ordered him to leave. Please leave if you have nothing else to do. Are you so unwelcome to me? I'm very sad. Tomi, who was ordered to leave, was not angry but said happily. Good fellow, Xiao Xian shouted in his heart, and for a moment he had the urge to kick her out. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Xian decided to change his words to something more euphemistic. Can you get out of here? Covering her mouth, Tomi had a very touching expression, as if she had felt the highest level of pleasure, her face flushed, twisting against the wall. This is the first time a man told me to get out. It really made me so happy. It would have been fine if Tomi didn't twist like that. But after she twisted like that, the image of Tomi in Xiao Xian's eyes changed from that of a peerless beauty to that of a monster with another face on her head. Such a monster twisted like that in front of Xiao Xian with a very happy expression, and Xiao Xian almost vomited out his breakfast. Xiao Xian couldn't bear it anymore. They all had super regeneration and were immortal, so who was afraid of whom? He just opened the door and kicked Tomi out. I'm in a bad mood today, don't bother me. Then I'll come see you tomorrow, brother. I'm so happy. Fu Zhang, who was kicked to the ground, looked at Xiao Xian lovingly. It was the first time in her life that she was treated like this by a man she failed to pursue. Instead of being sad, she was very excited. The more this happened, the greater her joy would be when Xiao Xian fell. At this moment, just imagining the scene of Xiao Xian falling at her feet, refusing to break up even when she kicked him, and humbly begging her not to go out and be with other men, made Tomi fall into extreme pleasure. This kind of pleasure was incomparable to that of a waste like Daniel, even at the moment of death. Come again tomorrow. Xiao Xian was frightened by Tomi's look and closed the door in disgust. Although he didn't know what disgusting things Tomi was thinking, it was definitely not a good thing. In addition, Xiao Xian discovered that he didn't know if it was because he had acquired Tomi's super regeneration ability or had part of Tomi's physique. Tomi's charm and murderous intent had no effect on Xiao Xian. That look. Xiao Xian's look, as if he was looking at something disgusting, made Tomi collapse on the ground. It took a long time for her to get up. The prey she encountered this time was definitely the top prey. Being killed by a man like Xiao Xian would definitely put the most perfect end to her life, which would be enough to make other Tomi envious to death. At this moment, Tomi even had the idea that she should not kill Xiao Xian, and wanted him to play with her for the rest of her life. It would be a pity to destroy such a top-level prey in just one go. Chapter 8, Inciting Hatred. Forget it. Since Tomi is watching me, I don't have to think about finding a job for the time being. After seeing Tomi leave through the cat's eye, Xiao Xian breathed a sigh of relief. At present, Xiao Xian has a strong resistance to Tomi's charm, but that doesn't mean others are the same. From the performance of the police and Daniel yesterday, we can see how most people react when they see Tomi. What's the difference between taking Tomi to find a job and taking Conan to visit someone's home? Fortunately, there is still some savings left, so it doesn't matter if Xiao Xian doesn't work for a few days. Or rather, Xiao Xian turned his eyes and looked at Fujiang's back as she left, and thought, isn't she a rich woman after all? Lots of men rushed to give their money to Tomi. Tomi was not short of money at all and gave him tips in piles. Now that Tomi, a rich woman, was chasing him, it wouldn't be a big deal for him to get some money from her, right? Of course, taking money doesn't mean I agree. Xiao Xian will definitely not be with Tomi. This inequality is so fun to use, no wonder so many people use it. Xiao Xian suddenly understood a little. Now that the money issue has been settled, the next step is to find a way to obtain or enhance superpowers. Xiao Xian thought about it and realized that there are two main ways to enhance his strength. One is to obtain superpowers by completing tasks through the system, and the other is to find a way to attract hatred and improve his regeneration ability. As for tasks, although Sister Tomi's real body is a bit scary, she has already completed 2 tasks for Xiao Xian. To be honest, even if he can kill her now, Xiao Xian doesn't really want to kill her or report her. After all, it would be a pity to kill the monster with such a high explosion rate. Maybe he can get Super Regeneration ++, Super Charm, Clone, or Clone in the future. Especially the Super Charm, wouldn't it be easier to make friends with others after having this ability? Mainly because Xiao Xian has always liked making friends, and with Super Charm, it would be more convenient for him to make friends with others. In addition, Spider-Man is also a very good channel. Spider-Man has various superpowers, such as Spider Sense, Super Strength, Super Agility, etc. They are all very good. Unfortunately, Peter has a bad attitude and his explosion rate is not as high as Tomi. So far, the two sides have only met once, and no task has been completed yet. If Xiao Xian gets angry, he will really chase Aunt May. Anyway, the Aunt May in this world is not the old version. Instead, she has all the attributes of a wife, mature and plump. Then after they live together, Peter will have no choice but to open the door for him. They stay together every day, and Xiao Xian doesn't believe that he won't be able to complete the task. Anyway, for the time being, Xiao Xian plans to complete Tomi's mission while trying to get some benefits from Spider-Man. Xiao Xian tried to unleash the legendary power of Zon in the game last night. As a result, his regeneration ability was indeed improved a lot at that time, but it almost disappeared after half an hour. By this morning, their blessing had completely disappeared. Not to mention them, even Jack's hatred towards Xiao Xian was not as strong as it was at the beginning. Xiao Xian heard from other friends that Jack hadn't even broken up with Beth. Damn, such a pure wicked person, and he could be forgiven for this. Could he not have a little backbone? It seems that it is not difficult to make others hate you, but it is difficult to make this hatred last. Unless it is the hatred of killing your father or stealing your wife, the hatred of ordinary people will not last long. For someone like Jack, who is a forgiving person, if the two parties don't meet, maybe after a year or two, the hurdle in the other party's heart will be over. But that day when he wakes up in a dream at midnight and suddenly thinks of this incident, it may contribute to a wave of hatred again. For example, when you are playing a game and you insult each other, when you meet a new insulter in the next game, you may forget about it and never think about it again in your life. Xiao Xian took out the newly bought fruit knife, disinfected it with alcohol, and used the knife to cut a 10 cm long wound on his arm. There was an itchy feeling at the wound, and the feeling of recovery was not visible to the naked eye, but it was much stronger than when he first gained the ability. It seemed that Jack had not completely forgiven Xiao Xian. Come to think of it, except for special enthusiasts, who would not have a thorn in their heart about such a thing. Even if it was a big enemy, wouldn't they mind at all? After thinking for a whole night, Xiao Xian had some ideas on how to enhance his abilities. If he wanted to make people like him for a long time, he didn't have to leave a deep impression on him. However, it was not difficult to make people feel strong hatred towards him in the short term. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Xian prepared himself to be hacked online. Since he was in America, it wouldn't be a big problem. He then went to a blog and started leaving crazy comments everywhere. Is this the acting skill? I am not saying that my dog's acting skill is better than this. Please, you idols, just engage in fan economy and make money by participating in variety shows. Don't act and insult the audience, okay? Come and argue if you don't agree, you brainless fans. He is 1.8 meters tall? That's it. I think he is only 1.5 meters tall. The clothes drying pole in my house is taller than him, and this is your brother? My sister is taller than him. This photo is too photoshopped. This is a photo posted by another star. Your brother looks so ugly in it. This is what he really looks like. I don't know what handsome you are talking about. Are you blind? Along with Xiao Xian's dangerous remarks in various fan gathering places, the number of private messages quickly increased to 99 plus. Xiao Xian picked a few people at random and had a zone duel with them. After asking about their aesthetics, intelligence, and family health in a friendly manner, he blocked them. After completing the operation, Xiao Xian looked at his arm. The wound that had just been cut had healed. He took the knife and cut another 10 cm wound. In just 1 minute, the wound was healed. It also depends on the fans' fighting spirit. Sighing at the fans' strong emotions, Xiao Xian nodded in satisfaction, thinking that criticizing their idols was more exciting than scolding their entire family. If it were any other group, it would not be easy to attract hatred so easily. It's just that these remarks are often reported and deleted by fans before long, and fans' emotions are also often not very long-lasting. Xiao Xian is not the only one who scolds their idol, and Xiao Xian has not come up with any new ideas, structure, or influence, so it's hard for fans to remember him for long. Speaking of which, unless you search for their brother Xiao Xian temporarily, you wouldn't know him, you don't know him at all, and he has no black material to expose. It's really not easy for him to come up with new ideas. Most of the content is copied and pasted from other black fans. Not only is the effect guaranteed, but the quantity is also large and sufficient. The rival company bought professional black fans who targeted the other party like punching in at work. There might be a professional team, psychological analysts, black fan undercovers lurking in the fan group and so on behind them. It would be extremely difficult for Xiao Xian to surpass the other party. It's good enough to copy and get some wool. After all, they are just temporary hatred values. Just make sure you take your next actions. Chapter 9. Superhero. In order to obtain strong and lasting hatred, Xiao Xian has two ideas. One is to do what Tomi did and cause lifelong harm to certain individuals. Moreover, the stronger the self-awareness and emotions of that individual, the stronger the hatred that can be generated will naturally be. If you are like Tomi, letting the other person fall in love with you first, and then torturing and abandoning the other person, it will naturally generate a lot of hatred, and it will last for a long time. As long as the other person or his family is alive, this hatred will continue. Just like Daniel's family naturally hates Tomi, especially Daniel's son and father. Even decades later, as long as they are not dead, their hatred for Tomi will still be there. But the premise is that they don't meet Tomimoto, otherwise no one can be sure whether the hatred will turn into something else. Xiao Xian certainly didn't have the patience to play with other people's feelings like Tomi did, nor did he have any interest in doing so. If he had the time to do that, he might as well just shoot the person to death or cripple him, which would have had the same effect. Of course, even in free America, where shootings happen every day, people cannot just shoot others at will, and Xiao Xian does not have such a serious antisocial personality. Besides, Superman is still flying in the sky. Even if Superman is just a vain hypocrite like Homelander, it is not a good idea to become a public enemy. Even if he is burned to death by Superman's heat vision, he can be resurrected by relying on super regeneration, but Xiao Xian is not an M like Tomi, so it is better to die as little as possible. Xiao Xian's other idea is to start from quantity. As long as he is popular enough, famous enough, popular enough, and knows enough people, just like those idol stars, there will be no shortage of people who hate him. Although the people who hate Xiao Xian may be different at every moment, as long as there is always someone hating Xiao Xian, the effect should be similar. So which one should we choose, quality or quantity? Xiao Xian thought about it. Only children would make multiple choice questions. Adults would want everything. Xiao Xian not only wants to improve his reputation, but also wants to carve his shadow in the hearts of certain people. Of course, these people cannot be chosen casually. Xiao Xian thinks that criminals, especially supervillains, are good targets. On the one hand, attacking them can increase their reputation and it is not illegal. On the other hand, criminals, even super criminals, are also human beings. They have families, at least most of them do. They can also generate hatred, and their hatred is often much stronger than that of a coward like Jack. Standing in front of the mirror, Xiao Xian was wearing a cool black windbreaker and a mask that he had prepared for the masked ball. After thinking for a moment, he took off the mask, looked at himself in the mirror, nodded with satisfaction. Today was the day that superhero Xiao Xian made his debut. Xiao Xian is alone and has no one to protect. Instead of hiding his identity, it is better to show it openly and attract the media to dig deeper. It would be best if Jack waited until Xiao Xian became famous, and then stood up and revealed to the media that Xiao Xian had poached his girlfriend in the past, causing debate among netizens and making Xiao Xian hate him. By the way, Jack could also earn some announcement fees and whistleblower fees. America doesn't care as much about poaching, especially unmarried people, as Dongfang does, at least not as much as the ancient Dongfang did. Xiao Xian wouldn't be banned from the entire internet because of this. There are so many European and American stars who have cheated in various ways, but this incident also has a very serious impact. It greatly damages their popularity and attracts hatred, making it a very suitable black spot. As for the possible online blackening caused by this, Xiao Xian didn't even bother to read the online abuse. It was enough to enhance his superpowers. Reputation is very important if you care about it, but it's nothing if you don't care about it. If any black fans dare to come to make trouble in person, Xiao Xian can just beat up the black fans and draw more attention. Xiao Xian has become a superhuman. Can he still be bullied by ordinary people? It's only in comic books and movies that ordinary people bully honest superhumans. Normally, it's good enough if superhumans don't bully ordinary people. Of course, this refers to superhumans with strong strength. Useless superhumans like Brokeback are exceptions. It might seem a bit strange in a normal superhero world, but in this world, even the good old Spider-Man is not afraid of web bombs and can directly break into houses to steal things. The Flash has even transformed into a Hawaiian god of war. What is Xiao Xian afraid of? In the final analysis, whether it is between people or between countries, strength is the foundation. In a world where individual differences are not large, the main components of this strength are economy and fame, power and appearance, connections and resources, wisdom and knowledge. In a world where individual differences are huge, the role of personal force is greatly magnified, and this strength often mainly refers to the force itself. Just like in the world of cultivating immortals, a cultivator in the Qi training stage, even if given a mountain of spiritual stones, when a Yuanying ancestor who is penniless and heavily in debt sees this cultivator in the Qi training stage, the cultivator in the Qi training stage will bow politely to the Yuanying ancestor, hoping that the other party will not kill people for the treasure. Even though he was restricted by the sex rules, the market rules, cause and effect, etc., the nascent soul patriarch did not kill people to steal treasures. Instead, he kindly borrowed money from the Qi training cultivators. That was not because of the money, but because of the sex rules, the market rules, and the stronger strength represented by cause and effect. From the moment he traveled to the world of superheroes, Xiao Xian realized how different this world was from his original world. In this world, no matter whether they are billionaires or President America, the aftermath of any major event can take them away. No matter how rich an ordinary person is, he will still die if shot in the vitals. This is the same as in the original world. However, in the superhero world, the probability of encountering such a thing is completely different from the original world. The bullets here, if replaced with bombs, the aftermath of superhero fights, the Kryptonians' heat vision, and the aliens' energy bombs, are all the same, the only difference is the way of death. Not to mention ordinary rich people, even those with superpowers are surrounded by dangers in this world. Superman and even the 5 great gods have died many times in the comics, and even the living tribunal has overturned. But Xiao Xian was not afraid, but very happy. Although this world was dangerous, it was full of opportunities. It was not impossible to become a god, or even surpass a god. If the 5 great gods are always high and mighty and the cord of life will never fall, then how can Xiao Xian reach or even surpass them? Xiao Xian was not afraid of danger or hard work, but he was afraid that the danger and hard work would not bring him the due rewards, or even a possibility. Just like a dead-end job that often makes people stay up late to work overtime but the boss refuses to raise their wages or give overtime pay. Although you do the most, the hardest, and are the most tired, after careful consideration, the boss still chooses to promote Xiao Li, who slacks off at work every day, leaves on time and is a mess at work. Of course, this has nothing to do with Xiao Li's uncle being a manager. Xiao Li won this promotion opportunity entirely through his own personal abilities. Chapter 10. Is this superheroes or showbiz? Xiao Xian first went to the supermarket to get some equipment. He bought several crowbars, daggers, machetes, and the like and put them in the trunk. He also carried one with him. Unfortunately, he didn't have a gun license, and he had to show his face in front of the camera, otherwise Xiao Xian planned to get a gun for self-defense. After all, the criminals had guns but he didn't, so he felt a little weak. Although if it was an ordinary pistol, it would only cause pain when it hit Xiao Xian, there would be no other consequences. Moreover, guns are very easy to get here. Over in Hell's Kitchen, the pancake vendor can easily pull out an AK from under the stall, and the lady selling fruit can also pull out 2M and P9S from her apron at any time to give the criminals who cross the line a little local shock. Then he listened to the radio and checked Twitter. Xiao Xian was not Peter Parker and could not hack into the police communication system. He could only use this method to see if there were any cases that suited him. To be honest, if Xiao Xian hadn't joined in, he would not have realized that although the crime rate was extremely high, the superhero industry in New York was quite competitive. At least that was the case during the day, but it was not clear at night. Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Daredevil and many other heroes are active in New York, which is a real red ocean in the industry. Small cases were usually over by the time Xiao Xian found out about them. Of course, Xiao Xian was not very interested in them. If someone just stole a car or robbed a bag, Xiao Xian would just hack them to death or chop them into pieces. He would be thrown in jail for sure, and at least he would be wanted and could not escape, and it would be unlikely for him to become famous. In the past, simply catching a car thief? Not to mention whether he could be caught or not, even if he was caught, he would just be locked up for a while and then released. The resentment from the other party would not be worth Xiao Xianhua's time, energy, and gas money. The only benefit was that it might improve the public security in New York. But what's the use? Xiao Xian doesn't really worry about the public security in New York. Yezi is legal here, so who cares about the public security? It would be good enough if he could stop it when he encountered it. Xiao Xianke had no interest in going there specially. Xiao Xian was not sure about the big cases, as the supervillains did not come out today, but for bank robberies, terrorist attacks, and the like, Xiao Xian would often just see the news on the radio and Twitter, and before he even started the car and reached the destination, they were often solved by other superheroes. Especially Captain America and Iron Man, the former took a helicopter, and the latter used the rocket propulsion system of the Iron Man suit. Xiao Xian was originally behind in intelligence and speed, and this second-hand Volkswagen couldn't even get the tail gas. Even Spider-Man was faster than Xiao Xian in web swinging. He finally encountered a kidnapping case. Iron Man and Captain America were not there, and it was close to him. Before Xiao Xian had time to be happy, he found that the Stone Man from the Fantastic Four happened to be shopping nearby. Because it was too coincidental, Xiao Xian even suspected that they knew about it in advance and that there was actually a script for this matter. Besides, Xiao Xian couldn't take on cases that were too big. The other side had a team of professionals with rocket launchers, machine guns, grenades, and all kinds of equipment. Xiao Xian only had super regeneration and a knife. Although he would not die if he rushed forward, he would probably jump back and forth between death and regeneration until other superheroes arrived. The only hope is to scare the other party by repeatedly using the force, but this trick can only be used against small criminals. Xiao Xian has no hope at all against professionals. Then there are the weird monsters, but Xiao Xian thinks it is better to stay away from such things. Xiao Xian feels that because of his regenerative ability, the difference between him and ordinary people is that he can be tortured by the other party for a longer time. After all, monsters like Tommy who like to be killed are a minority, and most monsters like to kill others. If he encounters monsters like vampires and zombies, Xiao Xian is simply a blood bag with infinite refills and a field of flesh that can grow heads infinitely. That's it, provided that the opponent is not on the spiritual side, otherwise if Xiao Xian's soul is swallowed up, it will be a direct result of a GG, and it will be useless even if the physical body can regenerate. Of course, both tasks are currently available from Tomy, and have not yet been available from Spider-Man. If the tasks really cannot be obtained from a superhero, Xiao Xian can only try the supervillain. If that doesn't work, Xiao Xian can only look for weird monsters. After driving around for a long time, Xiao Xian caught a bicycle thief and a crazy man who was high and wanted to rob. The former waited for the police to come but the owner didn't come back. Xiao Xian handed the thief to the police and left. The latter was staggering and jumping when he walked. After being kicked by Xiao Xian, he fell to the ground and couldn't get up. He lay on the ground with his arms outstretched, thinking he was swimming. Xiao Xian was too lazy to call the police and let the other person swim away. The robbed female student was very grateful to Xiao Xian and took the initiative to ask for his contact information. Unfortunately, although she looked cute, she was too peaceful and not Xiao Xian's type, so she was rejected by Xiao Xian. If it were in the past, Xiao Xian would definitely not mind making friends. Xiao Xian felt that Tomy should take the blame for this. Although Tomy's real body could make Xiao Xian's sanity level drop wildly and he almost vomited his food, her disguised form was indeed a peerless beauty, with the right curves, a figure that even supermodels could not compare to. After seeing too many peerless beauties, when you look at other girls, the ones that originally scored 7 points can only be rated 5 points, and the ones that originally scored 8 points will only be rated 6 points. However, the ones that scored 10 points will not drop, and the ones that scored 9 points will not drop much. Sitting in the car, Xiao Xian, who had failed in his attempt to become a superhero, checked today's news online. Wow, news about Iron Man, Captain America, the Stone Man and others saving people had already been written and posted. Iron Man, in particular, was directly on the hot search and the headlines of many media outlets. The words used were gorgeous, and Iron Man was highly praised in the words. There are also ultra-high-definition videos that don't even shake, and you can tell at a glance that they're produced using professional equipment. No, so fast? This must be a pre-written script. There must be something fishy going on. Seeing this, Xiao Xian felt that this matter was even more suspicious. This robbery or something, could it be an actor? No, these days, aren't superhero deeds fake? Can people still be a little sincere with each other? No wonder there are even superhero agencies. In sharp contrast to several other popular heroes, news about Spider-Man has not appeared in any mainstream media except for a few bloggers and promoters who reposted it themselves. It is obvious that his popularity has been suppressed. If Xiao Xian hadn't searched for him specifically, he wouldn't have found any news about Spider-Man. Even the Daily Bugle, Spider-Man's old partner in movies and comics, did not report on Spider-Man, but instead praised Iron Man extensively. Among the most popular people, it goes without saying that the most popular one is Iron Man Tony Stark, who is not only a billionaire, but also the owner of Stark Industries and Stark Superhero Agency. In addition, Captain America and The Thing have signed contracts with agencies. The company Captain America signed to has a military background, and The Thing is affiliated with Mr. Fantastic's agency. Only Spider-Man, Xiao Xian checked and found that he was not signed to any agency. Is the superhero circle so dark? How come it is almost the same as the entertainment industry? It is so difficult to debut without signing a contract. At this moment, Xiao Xian suddenly realized that the changes in the superheroes were not just a change in the personalities of the superheroes. As a group of people who possessed the world's top combat power, their changes had a profound impact on the world. If there weren't a hypocritical superhero like Homelander, the world might have become a world of superheroes fighting for supremacy. Xiao Xian nowadays naturally cannot change the overall environment of the superhero circle, but Xiao Xian does not have to change this. If you can't beat them, join them. Picking up his phone, Xiao Xian looked for recruitment notices on the websites of several superhero agencies, intending to submit a few resumes. At worst, he would suffer a loss in commission and it would be okay if the contract was signed more strictly. He would first use the platform and intelligence of large companies to build up his reputation. With the help of the platform, as for whether to maintain this environment after growing up, it depends on whether this environment is beneficial or harmful to Xiao Xian. If it is beneficial, maintain it, if it is harmful, oppose it. As for the contract, if it really doesn't work out, just cancel it and see if you can find the next party to pay the penalty. Chapter 11. Development of Abilities. After realizing how difficult the road is for a wild superhero with no capital in this world, Xiao Xian did not continue wandering the streets, but went home immediately and began to prepare his resume. If you are going to apply for a big one. It is good to lean on a big tree for shade. Xiao Xian submitted multiple resumes to many superhero agencies, including Wayne Superhero Agency, Stark Superhero Agency, Osborne Superhero Agency, Richard Superhero Agency, Charles Superhero Agency, Oliver Superhero Agency, etc. It doesn't cost money to submit resumes anyway. Some of these companies, like Wayne Superhero Agency, are already well-known superhero agencies, while others have only just been established, such as Osborne Superhero Agency. What they have in common is that they were all founded by well-known figures that Xiao Xian had an impression of, and they were rich and powerful. Even if their current development was average, they would probably not be bad in the future. They all had enough connections and background, at least enough to serve as the first agency. Anyway, America's first agency contract was only for 2 years. Xiao Xian will definitely either strike out on his own and start his own company, or join Wayne's Superhero Agency in order to get close to Superman. It was a waste of time to submit resumes, fill out forms, and fill out various things. By the time Xiao Xian finished all this, it was already late at night. I feel like I'm back in graduation season. Xiao Xian stood up and stretched a few times. After sitting in front of the computer for so long, he found that he had no muscle soreness at all. Even Xiao Xian didn't feel the slightest bit of discomfort in his eyes. He stood up and walked to the balcony, looking at the night view of New York, and thought that the abnormality in his body was obviously related to super regeneration. Reality is not a comic or a game, and Xiao Xian's super regeneration ability is not a skill icon. Xiao Xian has the super regeneration ability, and naturally there are a series of things that come with the super regeneration ability. Xiao Xian did not realize it before, but now Xiao Xian suddenly understands it. The system gave Xiao Xian super regeneration ability, not super regeneration skill. It can only be triggered in a certain state. When it is not triggered, it is the same as not having this skill. Xiao Xian is not clear about the principle of super regeneration yet, but it is obvious that super regeneration can restore wounds visible to the naked eye and various invisible minor injuries. In addition, Xiao Xian guessed that the data on his cell activity, division speed, etc. should be very different from before, especially the upper limit of the number of divisions, the division process, the birth speed, and the growth process have all undergone tremendous changes from before. Apart from anything else, I have never heard of normal cells being able to grow by relying on the hatred of others. If Xiao Xian's physique happened in the normal world, he would be worried about being dragged away for slice up. However, this is the world of superheroes, and there are all kinds of strange monsters. There is Superman in the sky, Aquaman in the water, Spider-Man next door, a bunch of mutants in the X-Academy, the demigod Diana, and the speedster the Flash. In terms of anatomical value, Xiao Xian now really doesn't rank high. Of course, this does not take the system into account, but Xiao Xian would never expose the system. Back to the regenerative ability, Xiao Xian thought about it. He could now think of the benefits or additional abilities that the regenerative ability brought to him. On the one hand, it was Xiao Xian's source of energy. Not only could he obtain it from food, but he could also rely on the hatred of others to maintain his activities and growth. Xiao Xian felt that the reason why he could obtain energy without food was very simple. That was when he was beaten to the point where only one cell was left, Xiao Xian could still rely on hatred to increase his regeneration and recovery speed. Obviously, in this process, hatred provided energy and substances for cell activity, growth, and division. The energy and substances for cell activity and even growth were provided by hatred. What effect did eating or not have? The method to verify this ability is also very simple. Xiao Xian will know if he tries to fast for a period of time. Xiao Xian did not eat dinner today. So far, from noon to late at night, Xiao Xian's food intake is 0, but he feels full of energy and not hungry at all. On the other hand, it is recovery ability, or endurance. Relying on the regenerative ability to repair various cells and hidden injuries in the body, and with hatred providing energy for activities, Xiao Xian's recovery speed and physical strength will be improved. In addition, due to the continuous repair of cells, Xiao Xian's body functions may always be at their peak, his appearance will always be young, his lifespan should be extended accordingly, and he may even no longer die from aging. In addition, most viruses and bacteria are likely to be ineffective against Xiao Xian. Even if they are not ineffective, Xiao Xian is not afraid of being infected by the virus. He can commit suicide directly, and then regenerate with his flesh and blood before the infection as the core. Of course, the premise for doing so is that the virus does not involve the soul. Thinking of this, Xiao Xian glanced at the system interface. It seemed that the system only gave Xiao Xian Tomi's super regeneration, modification, ability, but in fact it changed the essence of Xiao Xian's life. In particular, the ability to feed on hatred that comes with super regeneration is not even weaker than super regeneration itself. If it is confirmed to be true, it means that Xiao Xian has leapt from an ordinary creature that can only obtain energy and nutrients from food to an extraordinary being like some evil gods or gods of faith who can survive by relying on the power of other people's emotions, at least physically. In addition, the recovery ability is also very useful. Whether in battle, life, or emotional life, it is a magical skill. As expected, abilities still need to be developed. It is called super regeneration, but as long as it is developed well, this ability can not only be used as teleportation, but also as a food pill or even a blue pill. Simply using it only for regeneration is a bit too much of a loss. In addition, if Xiao Xian could find a way to overcome the self-limitations of the human body, then he should be able to easily possess strength far beyond that of ordinary people. Of course, the price might be that his bones would be broken after a full strength punch. But this is not a big problem at all for Xiao Xian, who has the ability to heal himself. Looking at the time, it was already past 11 o'clock in the evening. Xiao Xian shrugged and left the balcony, planning to try his recovery ability tonight. Shortly after Xiao Xian left the balcony, Peter, wearing Spider-Man clothes and carrying a bag, came back to the room from the next balcony cursing. "Is this guy crazy? He stood on the balcony for so long at night. Damn it! If I wasn't afraid of being exposed, I would really want to punch him." When Peter got home, he opened the bag, revealing the jewelry and cash inside. Looking at the glittering jewelry and the green US dollars, Peter's eyes lit up with satisfaction. He had gained a lot tonight. He had enough money to take his goddess on a trip, and he could also buy her a beautiful necklace. Chapter 12. The education I received since childhood does not support me doing this kind of thing. Sitting on the bed, Peter opened his phone and saw several unread messages. One was from Aunt May asking if he had returned home, one was from his good friend Ned asking if he wanted to go to the comic convention together, and one was from a country girl in the next class asking if he wanted to go stargazing together. Unfortunately, there was no message from the goddess Mary Jane. Who would watch the stars with you? If you want to watch them, go with Mary Jane. Pursing his lips, Peter said a few perfunctory words to Aunt May and Ned, and chose not to reply to the message from the little country girl. Then Peter cleared his throat, clicked on Mary Jane's profile picture, and sent a voice message. "Are you free recently? Let's go to the Met together this weekend. I'll treat you. And do you like the necklace I bought for you last time?" After waiting expectantly for more than half an hour, checking her phone repeatedly during that time, Mary Jane finally replied to Peter's message. "Thank you for the gift, Peter, but I'm sorry, Harry has invited me and my sisters to attend a party at his luxurious villa this weekend. I've already promised him, so let's talk about the metropolis later when we have a chance. You don't mind, do you? You are all very good friends of mine, and I don't want any gaps between us." Peter put down his phone disappointedly, licked his lips, and said in a casual tone. "Of course it's okay. We are good friends. You promised Harry first and you can't go back on your word. I understand you, Jane." "Great, thank you, Peter. You are such a generous man." This time Mary Jane responded quickly, and she sent a second voice message soon after. "Also, I've got my eyes on a pair of Valentino high heels. They're really pretty and perfect for a party dress, but I don't have enough money. Can you lend me some money to buy the shoes? I'll pay you back when I get my salary. It's just a pair of shoes. If you like them, I'll give them to you." Peter said generously without hesitation. "Really? Thank you so much, Peter. I also have my eyes on a dress that would go really well with those shoes, but the price is—" "I'll buy them together." Peter agreed immediately. Now that he was rich, he spent money on his goddess without blinking an eye. Unlike before, he lived frugally and even didn't want to eat breakfast to save enough money to buy his goddess the baby she liked. "Ah! Peter, you are so nice, I find that you are getting more and more handsome now." "Muah." Mary Jane was very happy to hear that. she said that with the sexy dress and Valentino, she might be able to hook up with a rich man at the weekend, and maybe even get to know that celebrity or big director who could help her fulfill her dream of becoming a star. That was a party organized by Harry Osborn. Many of the men who came were either rich or noble, not like Peter, a loser who had suddenly made a small fortune. They were the kind that could really help her achieve class advancement. If Harry could catch her eye, maybe she could become the boss lady of a listed company in the future. "Hello, I brought you breakfast. Do you want to eat together?" Early in the morning, Tommy came and knocked on the door. Xiao Xian, who was sitting in front of the computer desk, heard the sound and turned off the video. After verification, it turned out that at least nothing happened to him after not sleeping for a whole night. He didn't feel tired at all, and his recovery ability was indeed greatly enhanced. "You're really here, come in." Xiao Xian opened the door and saw the breakfast bread that Fu Zhang was carrying and said, "I won't eat it. I'm on a diet recently. I think your figure is just right, not fat at all." Tommy walked into Xiao Xian's house with a smile, twitched her nose, then looked at Xiao Xian with a half smile and said, "Is it lonely living alone, brother? Have you ever thought about finding a girlfriend?" "No, a woman will only affect the speed at which I make money." Xiao Xian took out a newspaper with recruitment information and read it seriously. "If there is nothing else, Sister Tommy, you should go back. Asking for money also requires strategy. If Xiao Xian asks for money directly, it would be a bit embarrassing, and it would be difficult to refuse Fu Jiang's request at that time. Otherwise, what if the other party asks for a refund? Uncle De once taught that you have to force yourself to eat free food." "Hey, brother, you haven't heard that if you meet a good man, you should first get married. If you meet a noble man, you should first build a career. If you meet a rich woman, you should get married and then build a career." Tommy put the LV bag she carried with her on the table and looked at Xiao Xian, who was staring at the newspaper seriously and not even looking at her. If she hadn't smelled a familiar scent, she would almost doubt whether Xiao Xian had any such needs. "Am I the kind of person who lives off women?" Xiao Xian glanced at Fu Zhang with a look of disdain, and snorted coldly, "A man has to fight for himself." "Brother, you are very ambitious." Tommy smiled lightly, and she couldn't suppress the smile at all. It was even more interesting to destroy such an ambitious and ideal boy. If Xiao Xian had a girl he loved deeply, she would be the perfect prey. Just thinking about it made her tremble. "Of course, my ideal is to start my own company." Xiao Xian put down the newspaper and said seriously. "Of course, starting a company requires a lot of money, so I need to work hard to earn money, save up the first pot of gold, and then start my own company. So can you please stop bothering me? I need to work hard to find a job and make money, so I don't have time to be distracted by a relationship. Don't be so resistant to me. How long will it take to save up the money from odd jobs? I'll help you." Tommy stretched out her long legs in black stockings and used her high heels to push the newspaper away from Xiao Xian, saying, "Why don't I give you some startup capital? I can't take your money. We are not related at all." Xiao Xian raised his eyebrows and said seriously that the scenery before him was of no concern to him. Of course, this was psychologically speaking. From a physical point of view, the scene before him could be said to be magnificent and grand. "What's the big deal? I see you hit it off right away. I'm not short of money either. How much do you want?" Fu Zhang took out a checkbook, walked behind Xiao Xian, and said as her other hand brushed Xiao Xian's face. "As long as you make me happy, you will get a lot of money. The Maybach downstairs is my gift to you." Holding Tommy's hand that was touching his face and taking it away, Xiao Xian said seriously, "I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm not the kind of person you think I am. The education I received since childhood does not support me doing such a thing. Sister likes men with backbone like you." Taking Xiao Xian's hand, Fu Zhang leaned close to Xiao Xian's ear and said, "As long as you nod, I can give you the money that ordinary people can't earn in their whole life, and I will also give you a beauty like me." "Stop talking. I won't take your money." It was an ambiguous posture, but Xiao Xian did not feel anything ambiguous. Instead, he felt like he was being targeted by a top predator. His intuition told Xiao Xian that it was better not to overdo it. Xiao Xian vaguely remembered that in the comics, when Tommy faced a prey that was too resistant to her charm, she would stage a horrific killing show in front of him, and then try to take advantage of the prey's fright and the fluctuation of his psychological defenses. "Of course, sister, if you really want to help me, then lend me some money as startup capital. I will write you an IOU and pay you back with interest in 2 years. Also, you can let me go shopping with you, sing songs, and play games, but don't force feelings. I think this is something that needs to be cultivated. Chapter 13. I wanted to refuse. I changed give to borrow, not because Xiao Xian likes to pay back money and doesn't want to get it for free, but because the cost of borrowing is much lower than asking for money, and borrowing money does not mean that I intend to pay it back. With a person like Tomi, it is uncertain whether she will be dead or alive in 2 months, let alone 2 years. Although Tomi herself is most likely fine, and a large number of new Tomis will be spawned, it is certain that Tomi with this identity is dead on the social level. Since Tomi with this identity is dead, Xiao Xian naturally has no need to pay back the money. In another 2 years, if Xiao Xian's strength improves fast enough, even without considering income from other means, the advertising fees and endorsement fees from the superhero business alone will be enough for Xiao Xian to make a lot of money, and it won't matter even if he has to pay it back by then. After listening to Xiao Xian's suggestion, Fujiang looked Xiao Xian up and down and thought for a moment. Such an interesting prey was indeed worth spending time to play with him bit by bit. As for money, Fujiang was not short of money. Before, a boss knelt on the ground and gave her all his property in tears, just to beg her not to leave. Of course, accepting it doesn't mean I agree. Tomi also used the inequality well. In the end, when she was sitting in the passenger seat of her new prey and watching the boss who had nothing jump off the building to commit suicide, she was still quite happy. Okay, but I have one more request. It's too lonely to live alone, especially after seeing Daniel die in front of me. I was scared. I want to live with my brother, so I won't be so scared. Fu Zhang said, holding Xiao Xian's hand, looking like a weak little girl. If Xiao Xian had not seen Tomi's true form when Daniel fell to his death, it would have been hard for him to imagine that Tomi, who looked weak at the moment, was actually the culprit behind Daniel's death. This. Xiao Xian was a little hesitant. Tomi was synonymous with trouble. There were all kinds of suitors, other Tomis, and even superheroes who might be attracted to her. $20 million. As long as you agree, I will lend you 20 million as startup capital, and I won't charge you interest. Fu Zhang offered her own price. On the one hand, she didn't care about money. On the other hand, Xiao Xian would fall in love with her anyway, so any amount of money would be used to support her. $20 million. Xiao Xian was shocked. This amount is almost 1.5 million RMB. He knew Tomi was rich, but he didn't expect her to be so rich. If you think about it carefully, you have a system, and trouble is also synonymous with task. Maybe a task will appear. For the sake of money, it is not unacceptable. Ahem, the kind where you have to pay first. After thinking for a while, Xiao Xian asked tentatively. Here you go. Pulling his hand away, Fu Zhang took out a pen from his bag and wrote on the check, then handed the check to Xiao Xian and said, Can I live here now? Of course. Do you want me to clean up the room for you? Which one do you like? Except mine, no, including my room, you can want any room. I will vacate it and clean it up immediately and give it to you. Xiao Xian took the check and said immediately. He hadn't cashed the check yet, so of course he still had to be polite. Now in Xiao Xian's eyes, this is not Tomi at all, this is clearly the financial sponsor. $20 million, not to mention letting Tomi move in, even letting Xiao Xian act out a scene with Tomi where he kills her and then gets killed himself is all fine. Anyway, Xiao Xian now has super regeneration just like Tomi, so being killed is no big deal. Seeing Xiao Xian's attitude change 180 degrees, Tomi felt that her charm in front of this man seemed to be less than her money. But Tomi's frustration did not last long. Instead, it ignited her higher fighting spirit. For Tomi, the more this happened, the more interesting it was. No need, I can clean up myself. It seems like you just moved in and haven't cleaned the house yet? Boys are careless. Let me help you clean up. Before the prey takes the bait, Tomi's attitude will be very good. Of course, the better the attitude before the bait, the worse the attitude after the bait. I'm going out for a while. Xiao Xian took the check given to him by Fu Zhang and said, Let's get the money first. Go ahead, tell me what you want to eat for lunch. I'll make it for you. Tomi said with a friendly smile. I'm on a diet. I only eat 1 apple a day. I've already eaten today. Xiao Xian said directly. Even if he hadn't done the experiment of not eating, Xiao Xian didn't really want to eat Tomi's food. Who knows if it might contain Tomi's flesh and blood. There has been Tomi brand Daque in the comics, and similar things include Tomi brand wigs. Although Xiao Xian, who has super regeneration, can avoid the influence of Tomi cells by directly abandoning this body, it is better to avoid this kind of thing. Drive my car. It will give you face when you go out. Men need to have face when they are doing business. Tomi threw the key of the Maybach to Xiao Xian. I also have a Porsche. I will ask someone to drive it over. You can drive whichever one you want in the future. Thank you, Sister Fujiang. Xiao Xian took the car keys and said happily. Although he now had $20 million, it would be a waste not to drive a free luxury car. Amid the shocked gazes of the residents, Xiao Xian did not drive his second-hand Volkswagen, but drove a Maybach out of the community. As I remember, this new tenant used to drive a second-hand Volkswagen? A&D. A male resident said in disbelief, looking at the back of the car. And the person who drove this car before was the incredibly beautiful super beauty just now. His companion finished the rest of his story for him, his eyes full of tears. After going to the bank to cash the check and withdrawing another 500,000 yuan in cash for backup, Xiao Xian drove his Maybach back downstairs again. When he opened the door, he happened to meet Aunt May, who was carrying some food back. Hi, nice to meet you again. Is this your car? Aunt May was shocked when she saw Xiao Xian getting out of the Maybach. How could he, who could afford such a luxury car, live in her community and even rent a house at that? It belongs to a friend. Lend it to me. Xiao Xian shrugged and told the truth. Then the two of them went upstairs together. Is that so? Aunt May looked at Xiao Xian for a few times after hearing that. Although he looked ordinary except for being handsome, Xiao Xian must have a strong network of contacts, as he had friends who could afford a Maybach. After getting to know him better, maybe she could help Peter find a reliable job after he graduates from university. Let's have lunch together? I bought a lot of ingredients, come and try my cooking. Thinking of this, Aunt May took the initiative to speak. No, I'm on a diet recently. By the way, have you drunk the bottle of wine I gave you last time I visited you? How did it taste? Xiao Xian declined politely and mentioned the bottle of wine from last time. Xiao Xian was 90% sure that Peter never passed the bottle of wine to Aunt May, and even if he did, he didn't mention that it was a gift from him. Wine. Aunt May was confused. When had Xiao Xian visited her before? And gave her a bottle of wine? Yes, when I visited your house last time, but you didn't seem to be there at that time. Your nephew Peter opened the door for me, and I gave the wine to him. Xiao Xian looked surprised and said, didn't he tell you? Oh, I told you, I've been staying up late a lot recently, so my memory isn't that good. I drank that bottle of wine, it tasted really good, haha. After hearing what Xiao Xian said, Aunt May immediately remembered that last time when she was taking a shower, she asked Peter who came. Peter said that when he was selling insurance, the person who came was most likely not the insurance salesman but Xiao Xian. But in order to avoid Peter leaving a bad impression on Xiao Xian, Aunt May still smiled and said she drank it. Of course, she had already made up her mind to scold Peter when he came back. Chapter 14. Awakening. Living with Tomi is actually not bad, except that seeing Tomi's real self from time to time makes your sanity drop a little bit, especially now that Tomi hasn't caught up with Xiao Xian. Her character is that of a sensible girl who takes the initiative to do housework. At the beginning, Xiao Xian was quite restrained. After all, the real body he saw from time to time reminded Xiao Xian that this was not the beautiful girl she appeared to be, but a monster in human skin. But after staying together for a long time, Xiao Xian realized that he was immortal anyway, especially the piece of flesh and blood in the bottle might have already drifted to Indonesia. Actually, Tomi couldn't kill him even if she wanted to. So Xiao Xian relaxed and just treated it as if he had a free nanny in his house. Anyway, now that the money is in hand, Xiao Xian is too lazy to pretend to be a gentleman. Besides, Tomi herself doesn't seem to mind Xiao Xian's bad attitude towards her. Although it may seem like he is a bit of a scumbag, it is not a big problem. He is a scumbag, but he is still better than a bootlicker or a warm-hearted man. Xiao Xian, accompany me to the mall this afternoon. Looking at Xiao Xian, who was interacting passionately with people online with his mobile phone, Tomi, who was holding a mop, suggested. Okay, but I have to use my money for business. If you want to buy things, you have to pay for them yourself. Xiao Xian thought for a while and nodded, taking Tomi out for a walk. It seemed that he could attract a lot of hatred, and this was also what he agreed to at the beginning. Of course. If you like something, I will buy it for you. Fu Zhang said with a smile on her face. There is no man in this world that she cannot win, and Xiao Xian is no exception. He actually acted as if it was a matter of course and asked her to do these housework. Fu Zhang gritted her teeth and knew that she would soon take down Xiao Xian and make him pay double. By then, not to mention housework, she would even have to ask Xiao Xian to help her change socks and put on shoes like a servant. However, these days of working hard, taking the initiative to do housework, and pretending to be virtuous were not without rewards. After Fu Jiang's observation, Xiao Xian's attitude towards her in the past few days had obviously changed from being defensive and cautious at the beginning to being casual and accustomed now. Although it is still a long way from liking someone, this is also a big breakthrough. Letting down one's guard is the first step towards Xiao Xian's fall. Are the clothes dry? I want to wear that black jacket when I go out. Xiao Xian was lying on the sofa with his feet up, concentrating on the phone and having a heated conversation with someone, and asked as a matter of course. If Tomi likes to pretend, let her do it. It happens that Xiao Xian doesn't really like to do housework like washing clothes and mopping the floor. It's dry. I even ironed one side of it. Tomi replied with a smile. Okay, help me get the clothes. We'll set off after I scold this guy for being autistic. Xiao Xian was not shy and gave the orders directly. He knew why Deadpool let himself go so easily. It did make him feel safer to realize that he was not likely to die. Okay, with her eyes slightly narrowed, Tomi put on a kind smile, walked to the balcony, took out her mobile phone, edited a message and sent it out, then picked up her coat. Just as she was about to return to the living room, she heard a young boy's voice coming from the balcony of the neighbor's house next door. Hello, are you the new neighbor? Peter looked at Tomi, ignoring the phone next to his ear, and said with a stutter, I thought it was a man. Yes, hello, you are the neighbor who lives next door, right? You are talking about Xiao Xian, right? He was indeed the one who rented this house in the beginning. He and I have only been renting it together these past 2 days. Also, your cell phone is ringing, don't you just answer it? Tomi looked at Peter, who was stuttering, and said with a smile on her face, if she had met Xiao Xian before, she wouldn't mind playing with this innocent boy if she had time, but now was the critical moment to hunt Xiao Xian. Tomi was not interested in playing with Peter, otherwise, if she was discovered by Xiao Xian, her efforts these days would be in vain. She had been with Xiao Xian for the past few days, but he not only had no interest in her, but also looked a bit disgusted, which made her a little insecure. Peter's reaction made her very satisfied, which showed that there was no problem with her charm, but Xiao Xian's will was too firm. But it is precisely this kind of determination and challenge that makes it interesting. People like Peter, who can be won with just a flick of the finger, are really average. It's okay, it's just a harassing call, an annoying insurance company. By the way, my name is Peter, Peter Parker. Looking at Tomi's face that was bringing disaster to the country and the people, Peter hung up the phone and introduced himself blankly. Tomi Kawakami, let's talk again. Holding Xiao Xian's coat, Tomi saw Xiao Xian put away his phone in the living room and immediately walked in. Let's talk again. Tomi had already gone in halfway through her words. Peter stared blankly at the empty balcony next door for a long time until the phone rang again and woke him up. As soon as the call was connected, it was Mary Jane's questioning voice. Peter? Did you just hang up on me? Sorry, Mary Jane, I just had something to do. Years of habit made Peter apologize subconsciously, but then he suddenly felt that he was too humble and shut his mouth. He was no longer the bullied nerd, but Spider-Man Peter Parker. More importantly, before meeting Tomi, Mary Jane was the one and only goddess in Peter's heart, but now after seeing Tomi, Peter suddenly felt that Mary Jane was just averagely pretty, and the real goddess was still Tomi. In her every smile, gesture, and movement, the charm exuded by Tomi is incomparable to that of a little girl like Mary Jane. And then? If you don't apologize properly, I won't go to the mall with you today. For the sake of the dress and shoes, Mary Jane took the initiative to give Peter a way out, at least in her opinion, this was a way out. In the past, even if Peter begged her humbly, she would have left him alone for a few days. Sorry? Didn't I go to the mall to buy you a gift? Why do you sound like you're giving me alms? Once the disenchantment effect occurs, there is no going back. In an instant, in Peter's mind, Mary Jane changed from the white moonlight goddess to that woman. Without the halo blessing, Peter immediately discovered the fact that he had actively ignored, and turned to questioning tone. A dog licker may not necessarily be in love deeply, he may just be simply lustful and unwilling to give up. In the final analysis, Mary Jane and Peter never had any good memories together. Peter was always servile and flattering Mary Jane, and Mary Jane was not in a good mood. In this case, how could Peter love Mary Jane? Did he like Mary Jane's character or personality? Peter is not a McDonald's fan. Before, Mary Jane was Peter's dream, but now compared with Tommy, Mary Jane is nothing, so Peter's dream is over, and his new dream is Miss Tommy. What are you talking about? Mary Jane could hardly believe her ears. Was this Peter Parker talking to her? Was he sure it wasn't Peter's friend using a cell phone and voice-changing software to play a prank on her? I say, if you don't want to go, forget it. Am I going to beg you to buy a gift? You can go if you want. For the sake of our past, I can buy you a dress and shoes, but you can't treat me like this, Mary Jane. Peter spoke bluntly into the phone, and suddenly he felt like he had finally stood up. All his efforts over the years now seemed like a joke. Of course Mary Jane was willing to talk to him, and Peter was willing to do so, after all, she was his former white moonlight. Besides, talking to Mary Jane would not prevent him from finding ways to pursue Tommy. But even if they talked, Peter would never allow himself to be as humble as before. Chapter 15. Offering hatred. After repeated confirmation, Mary Jane finally confirmed that the person calling her at this time was not a computer-synthesized voice, but Peter Benby, Peter Parker himself. Mary Jane felt betrayed for a moment. After pursuing her for so many years, he became like this after he became rich? That's right, in Mary Jane's eyes, the reason why Peter suddenly became tough was very simple, that was because he had money. It was true that men became bad when they had money, and Peter verified this rule once again. Peter used to be a poor student. He was humble and submissive in front of her, acting like a good man. He even helped her buy the tickets for traveling with her ex-boyfriend. But after Peter became rich, he no longer looked like a good man in front of her. It didn't even last for half a month and he actually started to be impatient with her. As expected, no man is reliable, and in the end she had to bear everything. Fortunately, she did not agree to Peter's pursuit. In any case, Mary Jane couldn't stand Peter, who had been as humble as a dog in front of her, talking to her like this, even at the cost of her dress and shoes. That's it. Bah, scumbag. Just treat me as a waste of time all these years. If you had held on a little longer I would have considered dating you, but now it seems like it's a good thing you've been exposed. After talking on the phone for a while, Mary Jane hung up and started crying in grievance. Without Peter's help, where would she buy expensive dresses and shoes? Could she really become a waitress and wash dishes? She wanted to be a superstar, and washing dishes would hurt her hands. Besides, it seems too late to work as a waiter now because the party is coming up at the weekend. Could she only wear cheap dresses to the party? But experts would be able to tell it was cheap, so how could she hook up with Kai, or even meet a rich person? If she rented it, she still couldn't afford such a high-end dress. After getting Peter's promise to buy the dress, she spent all the money on a lot of high-end cosmetics. Mary Jane had worked so hard to get this opportunity to attend the Osborne family party. Was she really just going to watch it slip away? But if she wanted the dress, she had to bow down to Peter, who had been her schoolboy licker for so many years. In Mary Jane's mind, asking her to bow down to Peter was like trampling on her dignity. Especially if other high school classmates knew about it, what would they think of her? How would she face those classmates in the future? Taking out her cell phone and clicking on Peter's note, "Dog licker number 1, Mary Jane became conflicted. On the other side, Peter leaned on the balcony, holding his mobile phone, staring at the hung-up interface in a daze. Although he was mentally prepared, when Mary Jane really hung up on him and his years of pursuit finally came to an end, Peter still felt extremely melancholy and empty in his heart. He even had the urge to call back and apologize to Mary Jane. After all, over the years, whether in school or in life, Peter has become accustomed to a life revolving around Mary Jane. Even after gaining superpowers and trying to become a superhero, Peter broke into a house for Mary Jane, causing Spider-Man, who had a good reputation online and was expected to make a debut, to become infamous. In the end, it was only when he thought of Tomi's stunning appearance just now that Peter resisted the urge to fight back. Looking at the clouds in the distance, Peter exhaled a melancholy sigh. Unexpectedly, the next second, the phone rang. Looking at the number, Peter answered the call puzzledly. Could it be that Mary Jane didn't scold him enough just now and called to continue scolding him? Hello? Peter, I'm sorry, I got a little emotional just now. Mary Jane's cautious voice came from the other end of the phone. Before this, Peter had only seen Mary Jane like this in front of Harry Osborn. It's okay. After hesitating for a while, Peter still spoke kindly. After all, she was his former white moonlight. About that dress, does what you said still count? Mary Jane was so ashamed that she wanted to find a hole to crawl into, but perhaps this was her only chance to change her life, and she couldn't give up. Yeah, it's a good deal. Peter was completely disappointed when he heard that. He suddenly felt like a clown. He thought Mary Jane would care about his past kindness to some extent, but in the end, the only thing Mary Jane cared about was whether he could help her with the dress. Peter originally wanted to refuse directly, but considering that he had pursued Mary Jane for so many years and had promised Mary Jane before, he decided to help Mary Jane this time, just to put an end to his pursuit of so many years. In the mall, Xiao Xian sat on the sofa board, scrolling through his phone. After Tomi changed her clothes and walked in front of him, he barely raised his head to glance at her amid the envious and tearful eyes of the male compatriots around him, said perfunctorily that she looked pretty, and then continued to play with his phone with his head down. No, brother, your girlfriend is so beautiful, she came over so excitedly to ask you how your clothes are, and you just perfunctorily responded. Finally, a man couldn't stand it anymore and said to Xiao Xian, it's really a waste of God's gift. If he had such a beautiful girlfriend, he would be willing to hand over his salary card for life and do all the housework for her. Is it beautiful? I think it's just so-so. Xiao Xian said calmly while scrolling through his phone, not even bothering to raise his head. Why are there such people everywhere, advising other men on how to treat girls, acting like they are very gentlemanly? If he had seen Tomi in her true form, or even Tomi in her true form, but a fat and ugly tank, would this man still be so troublesome? It's probably good enough that he doesn't have to look at me with sympathy, right? Not a buddy? You call this normal? The man looked at Tomi, who came over after changing her clothes again, and said in disbelief. This is not the way to pretend to be cool. But who asked you to die? The man immediately said when he saw Tomi approaching. Beauty, he said, you are average looking. I would say you should stop dating him and find a guy who can appreciate your beauty. The man almost wrote choose me on his face. After saying that, he felt that his hint was not obvious enough, so he said directly, for example, I think you are the most beautiful, beauty. Hearing this, Fu Zhang glanced at Xiao Xian and found that he raised his phone and pointed it at the man, obviously recording a video, so he smiled and said, is she prettier than your girlfriend? Of course, you are much more beautiful than my girlfriend. I am intoxicated by your beauty. The man said hurriedly upon seeing this, not noticing that Xiao Xian was recording the video. Perhaps at this moment, with the opportunity in front of him, even if he found out, he would not care. Haha, thank you for the compliment, but even so, I still like him. Tomi responded with a smile, then walked in front of Xiao Xian, posed and said, how is it? I think it's just average. Xiao Xian put away his phone, glanced at the man and said with a smile. Then I'll pick another one. Clothes only make sense if you like them. Upon hearing this, Tomi immediately smiled and said, she didn't look angry at all, but looked extremely happy. Xiao Xian's behavior of recording the video was definitely not for the good of men. Xiao Xian's behavior was very much to her liking, because she also wanted to do this. So I'm also part of the game? The man looked at Tomi, who seemed to be even happier, with a confused look on his face. At this time, his girlfriend came over wearing new clothes. The man quickly smiled and prepared to praise his girlfriend in various ways. Beauty, your boyfriend said you are not as pretty as my girlfriend. Xiao Xian saw the man's girlfriend coming and also complained, he also wanted to persuade my girlfriend to break up and talk to him. I didn't. He slandered me. The man said hurriedly. He refused to admit it anyway. It was impossible for Xiao Xian to track down the store's surveillance camera because of this. I recorded it, watch. Xiao Xian said as he turned up the volume on his phone and played the video to the girl. Is that all? Just give up your hatred. Chapter 16. The boy was too close. No. Are you sick? The man looked at Xiao Xian with a shocked expression as he finished playing the video with a smile on his face. At this moment, he had the urge to slap Xiao Xian in the face. But before the man could put it into action, his girlfriend slapped him in the face. Separate. Suni. Suni. Don't go, Suni. I was wrong, Suni. Without caring about Xiao Xian, the man hurriedly chased after her and begged for his girlfriend's forgiveness. Ha ha ha, you are so bad. Tomi, who was pretending to pick clothes, walked over with her mouth covered, looked at Xiao Xian and laughed. He asked for it. Xiao Xian shrugged. He was just playing with his phone, but this guy insisted on getting close to him and making a truck-like speech. Xiao Xian had no choice but to take advantage of the situation to reap some hatred. I guess this kid won't be able to sleep tonight. Someone just called me girlfriend. Tomi said happily, winking at Xiao Xian. It's just what the plot requires. Xiao Xian spread his hands. Calling me girlfriend doesn't mean I agree. He sooner or later, I will make you confess. Fu Zhang said proudly. He glanced at his phone, opened a certain tweet, pulled Xiao Xian, made a fake kissing gesture and said, come on, let's take a photo and I'll post it on Twitter. Remember to make me look handsome in the photo. Momoting and distancing himself from Tomi, Xiao Xian made a gesture of rejection. He was going to debut as a superhero in the future, so public image was very important. It could be controversial, but he had to look handsome, otherwise how could he attract female fans? Without those fans who mindlessly defend their brother, how can there be a war of words on the internet? If there is no war of words, how can there be topics and attract others' hatred? One-sided comments are not called a war of words, but a cyber explosion. Got it. Are you thirsty? I brought some water. Fu Zhang took the picture and sent it to Twitter, attaching the address. Everything was in her calculations. She didn't believe that she couldn't take Xiao Xian down today. As she spoke, she took out a thermos cup filled with water. No. Why did Tomi bring a thermos cup when she went out? Could it be that she needed to drink more hot water because her period was coming? Xiao Xian raised his eyebrows at Tomi's thermos cup and politely declined Tomi's proposal. During these days, Xiao Xian hardly ate anything and didn't drink any water, but he didn't feel uncomfortable at all and was full of energy. Facts proved that Xiao Xian could really survive without food and relying only on hatred. The test was actually enough up to this point, but Xiao Xian still had reservations about eating Tomi's food. I seem to rarely see you drink water or eat. Tomi took a sip of water and said in surprise. In fact, she didn't need to drink water or eat, but when she was in the stage of attracting others to fall in love with her, she would pay attention to disguising herself as an ordinary person, including the frequency and amount of eating. In addition, her habits as a living person also made her not only eat and drink, but also eat well and expensively. I drank it in my room. Xiao Xian said without hesitation. He did bring some water back to the room. Although he used the water to water the flowers, who knew? Oh, yes. Where should we go next? How about going to a watch shop? I'll buy you a nice watch. Tomi thought for a moment and seemed to have seen Xiao Xian carrying water back to the room, so she suggested that with money paving the way and the beauty saving the hero plot later, they would definitely win. Okay, let's go. Is there a Rolex store here? Speaking of this, Xiao Xian was no longer sleepy. It would be a waste not to take advantage of a good deal. Anyway, Xiao Xian didn't feel any guilt about using Tomi's money. He even felt like he was doing a good deed. Peter? Peter. On the other side, Mary Jane, who was waiting for Peter to pay, saw Peter being attracted by the farce over there, and hurriedly pulled Peter's arm and shook it. Oh, what's the matter? Seeing Tomi pulling Xiao Xian away in his sight, Peter came back to his senses and answered Mary Jane. It's time to pay. If it were in the past, Mary Jane would have been angry if Peter dared to look at other beauties like this when they went out, but now, Mary Jane just wanted Peter to pay quickly. Okay, go shopping by yourself. I'll give you the extra money. Peter opened the bag, took out a few wads of money, stuffed them into Mary Jane's arms, and hurriedly followed. Okay, Peter, you're so nice. After taking the money, Peter walked away before Mary Jane finished her words of thanks. Tisk man. Mary Jane rolled her eyes speechlessly, feeling betrayed. She put the money in her bag carefully. Now thinking carefully, it would be okay to rent the dress, and she would not feel anything when Peter paid for it. But now that the money became hers, Mary Jane began to feel distressed. This amount of money is enough for her living expenses for several months, and it would be much cheaper if she rented it. Miss. Seeing Mary Jane putting the money into her bag, the waitress looked confused. Didn't she say she wanted to buy something? What did she mean by putting it into her pocket? Let me take a closer look. Mary Jane closed her bag and looked at the waiter with a wary look, wondering if he was trying to cheat money out of her pocket. After pretending to look around the store again and changing 2 sets of clothes, Mary Jane decided to leave. The clothes here were indeed nice, but too expensive. She would better wait until she successfully hooked up with a rich man before coming back. By then, she would fill her entire closet with them. Beauty. At this time, a man wearing a cheap black suit and looking haggard walked up to Mary Jane and spoke. What are you doing? Mary Jane looked at the man warily with an expression of impatience and vigilance. This man looked like he could die at any time and had no money. How could a man of this level dare to approach her? It's like this, have you seen these 2 people? They should have been in this store just now. The man took out a mobile phone with a broken screen and several cracks, and showed a photo of Tommy pretending to kiss Xiao Xian, while Xiao Xian was posing a rejection gesture, and asked. They seem to be going that way. Even this kind of man was looking for the woman who attracted Peter instead of her. Mary Jane rolled her eyes, not knowing whether to be angry or laugh, but still pointed in the direction according to her memory. Okay, thank you. By the way, if you have nothing else, you'd better leave the mall quickly. The man smiled at Mary Jane, then walked out of the store and walked in the direction Mary Jane pointed. On the other side, Xiao Xian, who was trying on his watch, suddenly stopped and the system's voice rang out in his mind. Ding mission, that boy is too close. Triggered. Mission name, that boy is too close. Mission description, your close contact with Tommy makes Tommy's admirers jealous, and they are determined to kill you, hoping that Tommy's heart will move away from you and turn to them. But what they don't know is that for you now, death is not the end, but a new life. Mission requirements, be killed by a Tommy admirer. Mission reward, Tommy Super Charm. Tommy Super Charm, greatly increases your charm value, and the longer they stay with you, the higher their perceived charm value is, and the stronger their desire to possess you is. The more determined a person is, the weaker this effect is on them. Chapter 17, Loud Speech. Xiao Xian looked at the task and fell into deep thought. Super Charm was indeed quite good, especially when used with the skill of attracting hatred. It was simply a magical skill, but the problem was that he would be killed. Of course, this killing definitely did not refer to killing in the conventional sense, but killing for ordinary people. He could just rely on super to survive. It is certainly not a loss to die once in exchange for a person with superpowers that everyone loves. Anyway, he won't really die. But this task makes Xiao Xian feel uneasy. This time, Xiao Xian is asked to fake his death. What if the system sends a task that will make Xiao Xian really die next time? System, what will be the consequences of refusing or failing to complete the task? After thinking for a while, Xiao Xian asked tentatively in his mind, wanting to see if the system would answer. You can't get the mission reward. After a moment's silence, the system replied with its mechanical voice. What else? Are there any penalties or something like that? Xiao Xian didn't expect the system to actually answer. He continued to ask, you're the one who said I couldn't get the mission reward? If I could get it for free, it would be fine if I didn't do the mission or not. If the system really kills people if they fail to complete the mission, and issues unreliable tasks, then Xiao Xian can only find a way to find Gu Yi to explicitly or implicitly tell him that there is something strange on him. There is no punishment. This system adheres to the principle of people-oriented and voluntary autonomy. It can be uninstalled at any time and the user's privacy data will be cleared. Do you want to uninstall the system? Or give up this task? No, no, no. Xiao Xian hurriedly said in his mind. It was just a question, why did he have to go on strike? Then he asked, who is your creator? No relevant data found. The system replied. All right, all right. Xiao Xian curled his lips and made do with it for now. Even if he wanted to abandon the system, he would have to wait until he made his first pot of gold with the help of the system, and then gain powerful abilities that did not belong to the system based on it, such as becoming a dimensional demon god or something like that. It would not be too late to kick the system away then. What's wrong? Don't you like this style? Seeing Xiao Xian curled his lips, Fu Zhang quickly chose another watch and said, try this one, how about it? Let me try. Xiao Xian took off the watch and handed it to the waiter. Before he took the other watch, he saw from the corner of his eye from the reflection of the mirror a man in a cheap suit with dark circles under his eyes, who made people feel that he might die at any time. He walked into the store and came straight towards him. As soon as he entered the store, the man pulled a pistol from his pocket and fired a shot at the ceiling, instantly attracting everyone's attention. Tommy. Seeing that he had attracted Tommy and Xiao Xian's attention, the man shouted hysterically at Tommy. Because the man was shouting too loudly, and he looked like he could die at any time, Xiao Xian was even worried that he would die suddenly and he would not be able to complete his mission. You're killing people. You just came in and shot me between the eyebrows. What are you yelling about? You're just cosplaying loudly, right? No wonder Tommy doesn't want to play with him anymore. Peter, who was peeping in the shop opposite, rushed over when he saw this. This was a chance to be a hero and save the beauty. What's so good about this guy? I swear, I will kill whoever takes you away. I am the only one who can be with you. The man pointed the gun at Xiao Xian and shouted with great dissatisfaction. Hearing this, Peter stopped in his tracks. It would be great if this idiot could help beat Tommy's boyfriend to death. This man went to jail, Xiao Xian was buried, and Peter had to take care of Fu Zhang reluctantly. If you want to kill me first. Fu Zhang stood in front of Xiao Xian without hesitation. She had originally planned to jump over to block the bullet when the man fired, but who would have thought that this man would hesitate to kill someone, and just came in and shot. What was there to shout? So she had to stand in front of Xiao Xian in advance. Compared with jumping over to block the bullet, this kind of performance is much worse. Peter started again after hearing that. He was determined not to let Tommy be beaten to death. Get out of the way. He pushed Tommy to the ground roughly, and faced the man's gun muzzle. I don't have the habit of hiding behind a woman. If you have anything to say, come to me. If you want to shoot, just shoot. I'm not afraid of you. After being pushed to the ground, Fu Zhang held her waist with a confused look on her face. Could it be that her plan to seduce Xiao Xian had succeeded? Why didn't he let her stand in front of him? But if it was successful, why did he push so hard? Tommy. Are you okay? Seeing Tommy being pushed down, the man didn't care about Xiao Xian and went straight to help Tommy. He even ignored the gun and threw it on the ground casually. He picked up Tommy with both hands, looking very heartbroken. Looking at the pistol thrown in front of him, Xiao Xian fell into deep thought. Is this guy mentally ill? No, can he be more professional? He still calls himself a killer. It seems that he is just a love-brained man whose brain and wallet were emptied by Tommy. It seems normal to say so. Now, should I pick it up or not? If I pick it up, how can I complete the task? If I don't pick it up, will it be too deliberate? Xiao Xian didn't have much time to hesitate. Peter rushed over, ran to Xiao Xian, picked up the pistol, kicked the man away, pointed the gun at the man and said, "Don't move. Put your hands up." Then Peter said to Tommy in a very gentle tone, "Ms. Tommy, are you okay?" As for Xiao Xian, Peter didn't care whether he was injured or not. If there weren't so many people here and Tommy watching, Peter would even want to shoot Xiao Xian. Damn! Xiao Xian cursed inwardly upon seeing this. Forget it, he could only look for another opportunity later. Fortunately, many of Tommy's suitors were not clear-headed. "I'm fine," Fu Zhang replied, then looked at Xiao Xian pitifully. "It hurts, can you help me up? Get up by yourself." Xiao Xian rolled his eyes. If it weren't for Tommy standing in front of him, he would have completed his mission by now. Moreover, in his eyes, Tommy now looked like a two-headed monster, and he really had no intention of helping her. "No, my waist hurts." Tommy fell to the ground and said coquettishly. One head looked pitiful, while the other head had a sneer on her face, like a vicious woman looking at her prey. "I don't want to help you. Get up quickly." Xiao Xian made a snort. He had no intention of pampering the monster at all. A two-headed monster was acting like a spoiled child in front of him, but Xiao Xian could resist taking action. He already felt that he had good manners. "Let me help you, Miss Tommy," Peter quickly said when he saw this. "No, I can get up by myself." Seeing this, Tomi realized that she still had a long way to go to conquer Xiao Xian. She stood up and dusted herself off, no longer looking weak. The plot of the beauty saving the hero was ruined by Peter and this useless guy. Maybe it would make Xiao Xian feel like a troublesome woman. Chapter 18. Stay away from him, Tomi. At this time, the man who was stunned by Peter's kick came to his senses, rushed up again, and was about to pounce on Tomi. Stay away from her. She already has a boyfriend. Peter kicked the man who pounced on him again. This time, the man struggled twice but did not get up. Thank you. Looking at Peter, Tomi thanked him with a forced smile. She was thinking about revealing her true identity and pushing Peter down the stairs when there were no people around that night. You're welcome. This is what I should do. Peter said very gentlemanly and felt very good about himself. This watch is good, I'll take it, come and check out. Xiao Xian waved at Tomi while looking at a watch at the counter. Peter is Spider-Man after all, a superhero. If he finds Tomi's monster nature and kills her, it will be troublesome. Both of his missions are related to Tomi. Where can he find another Tomi? Even if he finds another Tomi, she may not pursue him. Come on, why don't we go to the men's clothing store later? I'll buy you something nice so you'll look more handsome when you wear it. Fu Zhang immediately put on a bright smile and walked over to Xiao Xian and said. I guess we need to go to the police station. Xiao Xian said, looking at the gun in Peter's hand. This is a case after all. Don't worry, I have a way to get it done quickly, or I can just let a lawyer handle it. Tomi smiled. If you have money, you can really do whatever you want. How can it be like this? By the way, stay away from him in the future. He looks at you with lustful eyes, and you can tell at a glance that he has bad intentions. Xiao Xian glanced at Peter and whispered. He knew Peter could hear him, but that didn't stop him from saying bad things about him behind his back. On the contrary, because he could gain hatred points, it would only make Xiao Xian happier. Bah, a useless guy who couldn't complete the task after meeting him several times. Xiao Xian even wanted to move away. Look at Tomi, she has completed 3 tasks so far. Yet. Okay. Tomi nodded without hesitation. This was a good opportunity to gain favor. She would not be like those low-level green tea girls who were confused at this time. No, you are sick. Peter looked at the 2 people who were talking in a low voice. He just saved these 2 people, right? And this happened in the blink of an eye? At least Tomi said thank you to me, but Xiao Xian didn't even say thank you. Just because I was wary of him hooking up with Aunt May and treated him badly at the beginning, he is now on guard against me dumping his girlfriend. Isn't that a bit too much? Can't this person be more generous? Besides, this guy actually asked Tomi to buy something for him? He asked Tomi to pay when they went out shopping? Peter couldn't believe his ears. Not to mention Tomi, even if he went out with a random girl, even if it wasn't Mary Jane, just an ordinary female classmate, Peter would never let the other party pay. In the evening, when Peter went home for dinner and looked at the beautiful Aunt May, he felt conflicted. Although Xiao Xian was an ungrateful gigolo, Tomi just liked him, and Peter could do nothing about it. The only hope now is that Xiao Xian will cheat on his wife, and Peter will give the evidence of Xiao Xian's cheating to Tomi, and then take advantage of the opportunity to comfort Tomi. It just so happened that Xiao Xian seemed to be interested in Aunt May. If Peter brought them together, then installed cameras at home and sent the evidence to Tomi. But with Xiao Xian's attitude, Peter really didn't want a guy like him to chase Aunt May. What's wrong? Why are you looking at me like that? Aunt May Parker looked at Peter Parker, who was looking at her with a conflicted expression on his face, and said curiously. Aunt May, what do you think about our new neighbor Xiao Xian? After thinking for a while, Peter couldn't help but ask. Xiao Xian? He's a nice guy, very polite. Also, he seems to have a lot of connections. You can communicate with him more when you have time. Aunt May thought for a moment and said, by the way, have you gone to his house when I asked you to bring gifts? I forgot. I'll find a way to go later. What I mean is, from the perspective of relationships between men and women, what do you think of him? Peter asked cautiously. There was no way he could forget Tomi's every move and smile, so he could only let Aunt May make a sacrifice. I'm not interested in this. I'm over 30, Peter. He looks about the same age as you. He's not even in my consideration. Aunt May shook her head and said, and since your uncle left, I no longer have any thoughts in this regard. I just want to raise you. Aunt May, you look only in your 20s, still young. Hearing Aunt May's words, Peter couldn't help but feel ashamed of himself. He actually wanted to sacrifice Aunt May's happiness in order to pick up girls. Besides, you're quite cocky now. Are you starting to worry about my things? After flicking Peter's head, Aunt May laughed and said, besides, don't you know that he lives with a super beautiful girl? Oh, Peter covered his forehead pretending to be in pain and stuck out his tongue. I think Aunt May, you can definitely take it down easily. As a man, Peter felt that it was impossible for a man to give up Tommy for another woman, but it was possible that a man might secretly be with another woman behind Tommy's back, which was cheating. Just like Peter, it is impossible for him to give up Tommy and be with Mary Jane, but if after he is with Tommy, Mary Jane comes over and wants something to happen between them, Peter asks himself that it would be difficult for him to refuse. Similarly, Peter felt that Xiao Xian was unlikely to reject a beauty like Aunt May. Of course, Peter has now given up his terrible plan. The next morning, Peter did not go to college to attend classes, nor did he go out to be the superhero Spider-Man. Instead, he stayed on the balcony, quietly waiting for the woman who had been haunting his dreams and making him toss and turn in the middle of the night to appear. Finally, at around 10 o'clock, Tommy appeared on the balcony next door carrying washed clothes. Peter immediately smiled and said hello. Hi, what a coincidence, we meet again. Peter scratched his cheek, looked at Tommy, and his heartbeat immediately accelerated and his face turned red. If you didn't know, you would think something was wrong with his face. Hello. Could this be considered a coincidence? Tommy rolled her eyes in her heart. She knew all of Peter's little tricks. She knew without any guessing that Peter must have been waiting for her here for a long time just to meet her. Well, I got tickets for Beyoncé's concert. Do you want to go with me? After hesitating for a long time, Peter made an invitation. Although Xiao Xian asked Tommy to stay away from him and Tommy agreed, who knows about such things? Sorry, I'm not interested. Tommy hung up her clothes casually and rejected Peter's invitation without any hesitation. What about Osborne's party? I can get an invitation. Do you want to go together? Peter asked without giving up. Sorry, boy, you're not my type, and I already have someone I like. If he sees you talking to me, he might misunderstand. Seeing that Peter was still not giving up, Tommy refused directly. Charisma could be troublesome sometimes. This man was like sticky candy and couldn't be shaken off. What if Xiao Xian saw him and affected his impression of her? In Tommy's eyes, the value of Peter and Xiao Xian was like the value of top-grade Wagyu beef and beef made from bad rat meat mixed with flour from a small workshop. Tommy knew how to choose with her eyes closed. Chapter 19. The Cost and Benefits of Darkening. As the phone beeped and the email icon popped up, Xiao Xian, who was sitting on the sofa eating oranges that Tommy helped peel, raised his eyebrows. Finally, a company responded to his resume. Since he has proven that he can survive without eating, there is no need to go on a hunger strike. He doesn't dare to eat anything cooked by Tommy, but Xiao Xian still dares to eat the fruit that he bought and Tommy peeled in front of him. What's wrong? Is there any good news? Tommy, who was choosing a dryer online, asked immediately when she saw Xiao Xian's expression. She didn't know whether Peter would be obedient and stop bothering her. According to her experience, even if she kicked Peter, she might not be able to kick him away. In that case, Tommy chose to buy the dryer directly and not go to the balcony, so she would not have met Peter on the balcony. Oh, nothing, I just found a job. Xiao Xian opened his email, and the content inside was that the Osborne Group notified him to go for an interview tomorrow. Although he felt a little disappointed that the reply was not from Wayne's superhero agency, the Osborne Group was still pretty good. Although according to the plot, the two generations of leaders of this group, the Green Goblin and the Little Green Goblin, are both supervillains, the Osborne Group has never collapsed. Moreover, the management is in chaos, which may not be a bad thing for Xiao Xian. If there is no chaos, it will be difficult for Xiao Xian to get promoted or get anything good even if he works there for his whole life. The boss of a company will attach great importance to the interests of the company, but professional managers will attach higher importance to their personal interests. The interests of the company are not very important, as long as they do not affect the stock price and thus the dividends and annual salary. It is common to use various means to make money from the company, and it is also normal to sell out the interests of the company in exchange for personal interests. The Osborne Group's enhanced serums and various equipment are very good. In addition, there are many characters related to the Osborne group, including the Green Goblins, Spider-Man, the Lizard Man, the Black Cat, Gwen, etc. Although the latter two do not have superpowers, they are very beautiful. I thought you would start a company. Fu Zhang said with some doubt. With the startup capital she gave to Xiao Xian, it should be enough for Xiao Xian to start a company. I'll accumulate some connections and experience first. If I just jump into the entrepreneurial army, that's not entrepreneurship, that's giving money away. Xiao Xian explained that a superhero career is also a career, and he didn't lie to Tommy. Besides, even if he did, it's just a lie, no big deal. A man's mouth is deceiving, this simple truth must be known to Tommy, right? That makes sense, you're amazing, I really admire you. Tommy praised skillfully. Her skill points in coaxing men had been maxed out a long time ago, but she never used them most of the time. Besides, she didn't care about Xiao Xian starting a company anyway. It wouldn't matter even if he lost all the money. People are always easy to talk to about things that don't matter to them. Just like a normal person would say that it is too high when hearing that his girlfriend is asking for a dowry of 88 yuan, but a scumbag will only say, "My dear, you are right, you deserve such a high dowry, not only 88 yuan, but also the house and the car." Anyway, the scumbag has no intention of marrying the other party, so let alone 88, even if it is 888 million or 8,888 million, the scumbag won't even frown. Those with a higher level will pretend to disagree at first, thinking the request is too high. Later, after being persuaded by their girlfriends, they will say that they agreed to the request because of their love for their girlfriends. This not only makes it more realistic, but may also unlock new knowledge. Peter, who was directly rejected by Tommy, lay on the bed in a state of confusion. The details of his life with Aunt May and Tommy's face flashed in front of him repeatedly. Tommy's face seemed to have a magical power. Every time it flashed in Peter's mind, Peter became more unable to extricate himself. The frequency of her appearance in Peter's mind became higher and higher. In the end, most of Peter's mind changed from being mostly about the details of his life with Aunt May to almost all about Tommy. It's the 21st century now. Having sex won't make you lose a piece of meat. I believe Aunt May will sacrifice for my happiness. Besides, this isn't the first time for Aunt May. Xiao Xian is young and handsome, so Aunt May won't lose anything. Maybe she'll even gain something. Yes, that's right. If they do get together in the future, Aunt May will thank me. Lying on the bed, Peter's eyes gradually became firm, and he quickly convinced himself with a set of twisted logic. The conversation with Tommy in the morning made Peter realize that if he didn't want to use tricks to eliminate Xiao Xian, then he would never be able to compete with Xiao Xian in front of Tommy. In the afternoon, Xiao Xian, who was in a fierce debate with his idol's fans online, heard a knock on the door. After signaling Tommy to come over with his eyes, Xiao Xian continued to debate. "It's Peter who is coming. How about you open the door and I'll go to the room to hide from him, or we pretend not to be at home." After Fu Zhang saw through the peephole that it was Peter who came, she did not open the door, but went to the living room to ask Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian asked her to stay away from Peter, so she kept her distance from Peter. She would not make such a mistake. Of course, if Xiao Xian takes the bait and becomes unable to extricate himself from her, then her action pattern will be reversed. She will take the initiative to contact the men that Xiao Xian forbids her to contact, even in front of Xiao Xian. Peter. Xiao Xian put down his phone and thought, after all, he is the superhero Spider-Man, maybe he can get a mission. It's okay to meet him, but Tommy must stay away from him, so that she won't notice anything. Okay, I'll go open the door, you go back to your room and don't let him see you. Peter? What do you want to see me for? Xiao Xian asked Peter, who was holding a gift, after opening the door. He had been indifferent to him before, but became like this after seeing Tommy? His willpower is too ordinary, right? Is this a side effect of his dark transformation? Aren't we neighbors? You brought a bottle of wine over before, and I personally prepared a return gift for you, a PS5, a game console. I also bought you a lot of games and installed them all. Peter handed the gift to Xiao Xian with a very kind smile. Of course, Peter spent a huge amount of money to buy a PS5 not because he thought that he had a good relationship with Xiao Xian, but because he hoped that Xiao Xian would be addicted to games and ignore Tommy. For this purpose, he also bought a lot of highly rated games, with the purpose of making Xiao Xian fall in love with games. This is not good. I feel embarrassed to give such an expensive gift. Although he refused verbally, Xiao Xian calmly took the game console. He would rather miss it than miss it for free. Peter, you really did commit burglary. The wealth of 10 Peters in other universes combined may not be comparable to yours. They are still worried about rent, water, and electricity. This should be the benefit of turning evil. At least as a super-powered person, you will not be so short of money that you can't even pay the rent. It's okay, we are all neighbors by the way. Where is Miss Tomi? Why don't I see her? She seems to live here too, right? Peter saw Xiao Xian accept the game console and a smile appeared on his face. At the same time, he looked around the room without seeing Xiao Xian, but he didn't see the figure that had been haunting him. Chapter 20, Beauty Trap. Use the same trick against the opponent. Tomi, she's taking a nap, let's keep our voices down. Xiao Xian spoke seriously. A boy like Peter who was good at licking and warming would never say something as ungentlemanly as asking Tomi not to take a nap. Oh, is that so? Well, let's speak in a low voice so as not to disturb Miss Tomi. Peter did not say anything about waking up Tomi after hearing this, and he was very considerate and started talking in a low voice. Do you have anything else to do? Seeing that no tasks were given, Xiao Xian curled his lips. Rubbish. He's called a superhero. He can't even complete more tasks than monsters. What's the use of him? Oh. I'm fine, but Aunt May seems to have something to talk to you about. She asked you to go to my house alone to see her in 10 minutes. Here is the key, just go there when the time comes. Peter didn't see Tomi, and he also had no interest in chatting with Xiao Xian. He went straight into the topic and handed a key to Xiao Xian. Ah! Go directly to your house. Xiao Xian took the key with some confusion. What plot event did he trigger? It seemed that he hadn't talked with Aunt May many times, and his favor ability hadn't been improved. He probably hadn't completed Tomi's super charm mission. Yes, she told me in person to remember to go alone. She seemed to have something important to do. Peter nodded. Although his beauty trap was a bit crude, it was not a big problem. As long as Xiao Xian was a normal man with a strong will, there was no way he would not fall for it. Okay. Anyway, he has super regeneration, so as long as it doesn't involve the soul or something, it's no problem to say that he is immortal. He can just float a little. Xiao Xian took the key and agreed. If he can trigger the task, it will be a good deal. The moment Xiao Xian took the key, a ding sound rang in his mind. At this moment, Xiao Xian almost shed tears. This was great. He almost thought that he could only complete the task on monsters, but finally he could complete the task on a superhero. Ding mission, Beauty Trap. Use the same trick against the opponent. Triggered mission name, Honey Trap. Use the same trick against the enemy. Mission description, Peter realized that it was impossible to dig your corner by conventional means. He was completely captured by Tomi's charm and decided to use the honey trap. Use Aunt May to alienate you and Tomi. And you can take advantage of the situation and not only do not reduce Tomi's favor ability, but use this opportunity to increase it. Mission requirements, enter Peter's house, make your choice, and thwart Peter's beauty trap, so that Tomi's favor ability towards you will increase instead of decrease. Mission reward, Spider-Man adsorption ability, through mental control of the atomic interaction forces at the molecular boundaries, such as static electricity, the body, especially hands and feet, can be adsorbed to the surface of objects for rapid movement. Fortunately, it was not the first version with barbs on his hands. When Xiao Xian saw the task reward, he was disappointed but also somewhat relieved. Compared with such fancy abilities, Xiao Xian actually wanted the simple and crude ability like spider power more. However, this adsorption ability may not only be used for adsorption. Maybe it can be developed into more uses like regeneration. In a sense, generating static electricity with the spirit is also powerful. If static electricity can be generated in the enemy's heart, that's it, I'm going to school, and I've got plans with my classmates to go out and play in the evening, so I probably won't be going home today. Peter emphasized the fact that he would not be going home today, then helped close the door and left. It's okay to send Aunt. Xiao Xian tossed the key in his hand. At this time, Fu Zhang, who had been eavesdropping by the door, came out immediately after hearing the door close. Her face flushed and she looked very excited. You're going to his house, right? Do you want to go together? If there was no mission, Xiao Xian would definitely choose to go alone, but now the mission requires him to increase Tomi's favorability. Xiao Xian thinks it would be a good idea to take Tomi with him to show his gentlemanly side and his ability to remain calm in the face of temptation. No, no, they told you to go alone. It would be bad if I go. Shaking her head repeatedly, Tomi quickly refused. Her top quality Weijiu had a chance to evolve into godly super ultimate supreme Weijiu, and she would not stop it. If Xiao Xian could be captured by Aunt Mei, then it would perfectly satisfy all of Tomi's expectations for her prey, and she would be the most perfect prey in Tomi's heart. If Xiao Xian could kill her completely next, it would be even better, which would be the supreme, most perfect ending that every Tomi dreams of. After experiencing so many lifetimes, being killed and resurrected countless times, Tomi no longer desires to continue living. Hunting various prey is just a consolation for this long, boring, and painful life. If she can be completely killed by such a top prey and end her fate, it will be the best result for her. Rather, for the most perfect prey like Xiao Xian, the most thorough method should be used to kill her. Otherwise, Tomi could not imagine how high her threshold of pleasure would be after experiencing such supreme pleasure as Xiao Xian, and how boring and painful her long life would be. Compared with Xiao Xian, those prey that once made her extremely high were so boring and uninteresting. And in the next few decades, hundreds of years, tens of thousands of years, or even forever, she would never be able to meet a perfect prey like Xiao Xian again. After all, from the time she became conscious to the present thousands of years, Tomi had never seen or even heard of such a perfect prey except Xiao Xian. When she thought of that bleak future, Tomi even felt a little scared, but when she thought of that kind of pleasure, she was trembling with excitement. The most perfect prey, the most beautiful dream, the highest and most supreme pleasure that Tomi had pursued for countless times were about to be achieved. Even at the cost of endless pain for the rest of her life, Tomi would swallow this supreme pleasure in one gulp. Just like other men swallowed the sugar-coated poison of Tomi, Tomi also had to swallow the sugar-coated poison of Xiao Xian, even though he knew he was poisonous. You. Xiao Xian looked at the trembling Tomi and suddenly realized that Tomi was not a human but a monster. Normal people's values were completely irrelevant to Tomi. Could the answer he chose according to normal people's thinking improve Tomi's favorability? In addition, it seems that there is no need to choose, Tomi's favorability is about to explode. What's wrong? Fu Zhang looked at Xiao Xian with a puzzled look on her face. Wasn't it a discussion about whether Xiao Xian should go to Aunt Mei's house alone? Why did they suddenly bring her up? Why don't you change your pants first? Xiao Xian said to Tomi, whose face was flushed with excitement. Then I'll go take a shower and change clothes. Tomi reacted after hearing what was said. She was not shy and went back to her room to get her clothes and planned to go to the bathroom to take a shower. Before going in, she did not forget to say to Xiao Xian. Actually, I'm a very traditional Japanese woman. In traditional Japanese culture, a husband can have multiple wives, and generally only very powerful nobles can afford to marry multiple wives. So in my opinion, this is a very charming performance. Even if Xiao Xian has something going on with other girls, it won't lower my opinion of you, Xiao Xian. Now it is confirmed that monsters' values are indeed different from those of normal people. Is this a tradition? Looking at Tomi, who suddenly walked with a breeze and had a blush on her face, Xiao Xian's mouth twitched slightly. Tomi's hobby was a bit special. Chapter 21. Honey Trap? Xiao Xian was very curious about how Peter convinced Aunt Mei to use the beauty trap. Could it be that not only the superheroes, but also the people around the superheroes have turned evil? No, this doesn't seem to be considered as blackening. This should be called sacrificing one's own looks for the unrealistic fantasy of one's nephew. This means that Tomi's charm is really outrageous. Fortunately, I am not affected much, otherwise I would be the one pursuing Tomi at all costs, even if it means making more sacrifices. Hello. Before opening the door, Xiao Xian knocked on it, but no one answered. Under normal circumstances, Xiao Xian would definitely not open the door, but now he had a mission to accomplish, so Xiao Xian could not care less and directly used the key to open the door of Peter's house. Hello? Is anyone there? Xiao Xian was confused as he looked at the empty living room. Didn't they agree to use a honey trap? He was ready to resist the temptation, but how come there was no one there? How could he use a honey trap on air, if we use this to test cotters, which cotter cannot withstand such a test? After listening carefully, Xiao Xian vaguely heard some strange noises coming from one of the rooms. With doubts, Xiao Xian walked into the room. As soon as he entered, he saw May Parker lying on the bed in a black silk pajamas, twisting and turning. Her face was flushed, her eyes were blurred, and she was breathing heavily. May Parker? Are you okay? Xiao Xian walked forward and looked at Aunt May twisting her body. Although he didn't have much experience, it looked like she had been drugged. So was this how Peter convinced Aunt May? To be honest, this really was beyond Xiao Xian's expectations. He originally thought that the Peter in this world was just greedy and lustful, but now it seems that the degree of Peter's evil transformation is beyond Xiao Xian's expectations. Although Tommy also made a great contribution to this, if Peter himself did not have problems, he would not have done such a thing even if he was bewitched by Tommy. It was one thing for others to actively seduce him, and Xiao Xian didn't mind taking advantage of the situation and enjoying it, but he really had no interest in doing things like drugging someone while they were in danger, even though he wasn't the one who drugged them. In addition, even if we don't consider the issues of morality and personal integrity, Xiao Xian doesn't think this is a good idea from the perspective of interests. Not to mention anything else, after Aunt May wakes up, she will sue him in court. How should Xiao Xian face it? Although Xiao Xian could easily escape from prison by regenerating, could he still be a superhero? Would Oscorp accept someone like him who had committed a crime before he even made his debut as a superhero, just for the momentary happiness of his second brother? Xiao Xian got himself in jail, lost his legal identity and became an illegal resident. He must have been crazy to do such a thing. He was really not that hungry. There was a Tommy next door who was ready to be knocked down by him at any time. Although Xiao Xian really couldn't do it. Besides, you can find a partner for this kind of thing. Even if you can't, you can spend some money. It won't be much, so why take the risk of getting yourself into trouble? May Parker, who was in a daze, saw Xiao Xian, just like a thirsty person seeing water. She immediately rushed over and reached out to pull down Xiao Xian's pants. Oh my god! What are you doing? Wait! Pulling his pants, Xiao Xian hurriedly stepped back, but May Parker held on to his pants tightly and refused to let go. It's true that women are as fierce as wolves and tigers at the age of 30. Is this how she acts right after she comes? It hurts so much. May Parker grabbed Xiao Xian's pants and pulled them down while murmured in pain. Damn it! Wake up! Feeling that his pants were about to be torn, Xiao Xian held up his pants with one hand and grabbed a glass of water on the table with the other hand and poured it directly on May Parker's face. After having water splashed on her face, May Parker, who was originally confused, became much more sober instantly. She looked at Xiao Xian in front of her, and then looked at her messy clothes. At the same time, it seemed as if a flame was rising in her body, burning her all over. She had a strong urge to pounce on Xiao Xian immediately and have a card duel with him. Under the compulsion of reason, May Parker let go of the hand that was holding Xiao Xian's pants, pulled up the quilt with both hands to block herself, and said with a vigilant look, "What did you do to me? You did something to me, didn't you? Your nephew Peter Parker told me that you had something to talk to me about, so I came here. Who knew that as soon as you came in, you grabbed my pants and tried to take them off? Be careful or I'll sue you for sexual harassment." Putting down the cup, Xiao Xian saw that May Parker had regained consciousness. He took out the key Peter had given him and said, "He also gave me the key to your house." Peter. May Parker thought back to what happened before she fell into a coma. She remembered that Peter took the initiative to pour her a glass of water, and then she felt dizzy and wanted to take a nap. She had no clear memory of what happened next. She only vaguely remembered that her whole body was burning, itchy and uncomfortable, until Xiao Xian came in and she was pounced on by him without hesitation. Considering what Peter asked her yesterday about how she felt about Xiao Xian in terms of men and women, how could May Parker not guess what her nephew had done? That bastard! What is he trying to do? By the way, where is the glass of water? Aunt May asked Xiao Xian while looking at the empty cup on the bedside table. It just fell on your face. You pulled my pants down so hard and refused to let go. Could it be medicine? Xiao Xian realized halfway through his words. Why don't you go wash your face? I'll go now, turn around and don't look. Aunt May glanced at the clothes under her quilt and said with a look of despair. At this moment, she felt like she was on fire and there was no time to change clothes. Okay, you can't attack me from behind. Forcing a man is also illegal. Turning around, Xiao Xian looked at the wardrobe and said. Who would attack you? Aunt May lifted the quilt, put on her slippers and stood up. As soon as she took a step, her legs became weak and she fell to the ground. She tried to stand up, but her hands went limp and she fell to the ground again. Aunt May looked at Xiao Xian, who had his back to her, and said with a red face, could you please help me to the bathroom? I have no strength left. Okay. Turning around, Xiao Xian helped Aunt May up. As soon as he touched her, he immediately felt that Aunt May's skin was frighteningly hot. Thank you, my nephew is ignorant and made a fool of himself. Aunt May, who was exhausted, collapsed in Xiao Xian's arms and was helped by Xiao Xian to walk. It's no big deal, it's just a piece of cake, but can you please stop moving your hands? Xiao Xian helped Aunt May to the sink, turned on the faucet, and helped Aunt May rinse her face with water. Ah! Sorry, I didn't notice it for a moment. Aunt May's face turned even redder when she heard this. This capital is much stronger than Ben Parker's. Besides, Xiao Xian looks serious and it's not like he has no reaction to her at all. Do you want me to call the police for you? Is there an emergency number? Xiao Xian took out his cell phone with his other hand, looked at Aunt May, and asked calmly. Tommy had already developed this skill a long time ago. Not only did she wear all kinds of revealing clothes when walking around the house, but sometimes she would deliberately forget to take things like underwear when taking a shower, and asked Xiao Xian to help her get them. Chapter 22. Helpful. No. Don't call the police. Aunt May refused without hesitation. She didn't want Peter to go to jail. What about emergency treatment? Xiao Xian was not surprised at all. It would be strange if Aunt May was willing to let Peter go to jail. Can I call an emergency number for you? No, that's too expensive. Could you please take me to the hospital? Aunt May also shook her head and refused. She couldn't afford an ambulance. It's a bit troublesome, but okay, let me see if the nearest hospital is about 15 minutes away by car. It's time to get off work now, I don't know if the road is congested. Xiao Xian took out his mobile phone and searched, then asked Aunt May, can you hold on? Don't pull my pants off on the road, it would be embarrassing if there was a chain reaction. Well, I don't know. I seem to be unable to hold on any longer. I feel so uncomfortable I can't stand it anymore. Aunt May washed her face with water again, exhaled a breath of hot air, and looked at Xiao Xian with a dazed eyes. Move your hand away first. It's a miracle you can hold on. With a twitching mouth, Xiao Xian took away Aunt May's hand. It's not over yet, right? Xiao Xian? Can you help me? I feel so uncomfortable, oh please. Aunt May lay on Xiao Xian and exhaled a breath of hot air on Xiao Xian's face. He took a handful of cold water and splashed it on Aunt May's face, which made her regain some sanity. Xiao Xian took out his mobile phone and turned on the video. He was willing to help, but he had to be careful so as not to send himself to jail. Are you sure? Say it again. Aunt May, who had regained her senses a little, glanced at the camera and felt extremely ashamed and unable to speak, but she really could not hold it back any longer, especially when she smelled the masculine scent and hormones on Xiao Xian. She felt like she was about to be burned to death by flames. Can you help me? I need your help. I can't stand it anymore. Don't worry, I won't sue you. After saying this while looking at the camera, Aunt May hugged Xiao Xian. Okay, I'm always willing to help others. Helping others is a good virtue of a superhero. Xiao Xian, who couldn't bear to see Aunt May suffer, decided to help her out of kindness. On the other side, Peter looked at the images of Xiao Xian and Aunt May in the surveillance video, clenched and unclenched his fingers. No matter what, as long as he could get Tommy, it would all be worth it. Tommy, with a smile and satisfaction on her face, leaned against the wall, trying to listen to the sounds from next door. Although she couldn't hear clearly, she could still vaguely hear Aunt May's voice occasionally. Just when Tommy was complaining that she couldn't hear clearly, a Twitter user sent her a link. Tommy clicked on it and saw that it was the surveillance video from the next room. At around 1 in the morning, Xiao Xian picked up the clothes scattered on the ground and glanced at Aunt May, who had fallen asleep due to excessive physical exhaustion. Xiao Xian shrugged, put on his clothes and left Peter's house. This idiot Peter not only drugged Aunt May, but also used more than just ordinary medicine. From 5 in the afternoon until 1 in the morning, Aunt May kept asking for more. If it weren't for Xiao Xian's strong regenerative ability, she really wouldn't have been able to withstand it. After stretching his muscles for a while, Xiao Xian was not tired at all. Instead, he was full of energy. To be honest, Tomi was very happy with her super regenerative ability. "You're back." When Xiao Xian opened the door, Fu Zhang was standing at the door. She very considerately handed over some wolfberry water and a dry towel. "I've already prepared the hot water. Do you want to take a shower? Also, I have prepared a sumptuous dinner. You can eat it after you take a shower." Tomi smiled happily and looked at Xiao Xian as if he was looking at a rare treasure. "Oh, okay, I'll go take a shower first." In fact, Xiao Xian didn't sweat much. The high endurance and high recovery brought by the regeneration ability allowed Xiao Xian to easily cope with this level of physical exhaustion, but Aunt May sweated a lot, and it was more than just sweat. "It would be better to take a shower. Want me to help scrub your back?" Tomi asked eagerly. "No need." Shaking his head, Xiao Xian refused without hesitation. His sage time CD was so short that it was almost non-existent, but he couldn't stand Tomi coming over to mess around. Of course, if you see Tomi's true self, you can easily withstand it, but then the san value will not be very friendly. Is this guy so strong? In the hotel, Peter looked at the screen of the computer and muttered to himself in disbelief. What he got were not ordinary medicines, but special medicines that he had stolen from the home of a senior executive of a pharmaceutical company. This kind of drug is usually used by this executive when playing large-scale multiplayer games. Theoretically, it is impossible for one person to withstand it. Peter's goal is to let Aunt May completely drain Xiao Xian to prevent him from having the energy to defile Miss Tomi. Who would have thought that instead of being drained dry, Xiao Xian was the one who fell down after taking drugs? Could this be the reason why Tomi chose Xiao Xian? Looking down at himself, Peter felt that he was still far behind Xiao Xian in strength. He had indeed become much stronger after becoming Spider-Man, but not as much as Xiao Xian. But this aspect of strength is not all. Peter saved the video in the hard drive, which is the evidence of Xiao Xian's cheating. Although Peter has sent a link to Tomi, it is not known whether Tomi has seen it. Judging from the fact that Tomi did not go to Peter's house to catch the adultery, she should not have seen it. When I show this video to Miss Tomi tomorrow, you will pay the price for today's happiness. Peter clenched his fists. Aunt May, I will not let your sacrifice go to waste. I will definitely pursue Miss Tomi. At 7 o'clock in the morning, Xiao Xian, who used his suction ability to hang himself on the ceiling of the room and read a post about superheroes' self-cultivation, received a message from Aunt May. "Are you awake? I want to talk to you about what happened yesterday." "I'm awake, go ahead and talk." Xiao Xian replied while reading the post. "I hope you can forget what happened yesterday and pretend it never happened." On the other side of the wall, Aunt May leaned against the bed and typed, "Just treat it as a dream. Of course, don't worry, I won't ask you to be responsible or anything, and I won't destroy your relationship with your girlfriend. That's not what you said when you asked me to speed up and do it again yesterday. Now you don't need my help, just say it was a dream, haha, women, you will abandon me after having fun with them." Xiao Xian's mouth curled up when he heard that. Thinking of Aunt May's appearance during the day, he sent a message as if he was joking. "Aren't you afraid that your girlfriend will find out? Your girlfriend is so beautiful, but you do such a thing. Don't you feel guilty?" Aunt May said in shock. "Don't feel guilty? Wasn't I just trying to help you? Besides, who told you that I have a girlfriend?" Aunt May sent a bunch of question marks, and a little later she sent another message, "Aren't you living together? We're just roommates." She was pursuing me, but I didn't agree. Xiao Xian told the truth, although he had no intention of talking to Aunt May. This time, Aunt May sent a long string of question marks. A peerless beauty like Tomi was chasing Xiao Xian? And Xiao Xian hadn't agreed? Apart from anything else, just because Xiao Xian didn't hesitate to help her today, Aunt May couldn't believe that Xiao Xian would live with Tomi, a beautiful woman who had a crush on her, and do nothing. Chapter 23. Adsorption Capacity. Although Xiao Xian repeatedly stated that he was not bragging, Aunt May still did not quite believe that Tomi was pursuing Xiao Xian. In Aunt May's opinion, things should be the other way around. Xiao Xian shamelessly lived with Tomi, but Tomi always disagreed. In order to save face in front of her, Xiao Xian said that it was Tomi who was pursuing him, but Xiao Xian disagreed. After all, Aunt May asked herself that if she were a man, she would not be able to resist Tomi's beauty and charm. As for Xiao Xian, although he was very good looking and powerful, he was not as beautiful as Tomi, and he didn't have much money. However, no matter whether Xiao Xian and Fu Zhang are in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship or who is pursuing whom, Aunt Mei has no intention of talking to Xiao Xian. Firstly, there was the age difference between them. Secondly, Aunt Mei was determined not to fall in love before Peter got married. Thirdly, yesterday's experience was too outrageous. Xiao Xian's fighting ability really shocked Aunt Mei. There was even a period of time when even Ben Parker was forgotten by Aunt Mei. This was unacceptable to Aunt Mei, who loved Ben Parker deeply. Although she was very happy and excited at the time, she felt panic, regret and self-blame afterwards. Aunt Mei was afraid that if she and Xiao Xian came a few more times, she might really let go of Ben Parker completely. I have no objection, but have you ever considered your nephew Peter Parker? He carefully set us up, and his purpose is definitely not to make us think of it as a good dream. Xiao Xian didn't have any possessiveness towards Aunt Mei, nor did he have any idea of falling in love with her. This was not like the ancient Eastern or ancient immortal cultivation world where one had to take responsibility after taking someone's body, nor was the idea of being together for life a popular concept. This is America, the world of superheroes, where relationships between men and women are extremely chaotic. It's just common practice for them to have a friendly match if they like each other. In this superhero world, honest people will most likely only be forgiven in the end. Even those who are not so honest will find it difficult to escape. The colors of the heads of Spider-Man, Ant-Man, Cyclops, Green Lantern, Mr. Fantastic, and Dr. Manhattan are all very environmentally friendly. This is the case for superheroes, not to mention the supporting characters whose girlfriends have been snatched away by superheroes. In short, in this world, if you want to avoid the appearance of forgiveness, the best way is to not talk about it directly and solve the problem from the root. Of course, not talking about it does not mean becoming a monk, nor does it mean abstinence. Friendly matches or something like that can still be played. This time, Xiao Xian chose to help Aunt Mei purely out of his appreciation for beauty and his helpful personality as a superhero. Of course, helping Aunt Mei does not mean that Xiao Xian doesn't care about Peter's plot against him. Although Xiao Xian does not feel that he has suffered any loss in terms of either the result or the process, and even gained something, this does not affect the essence of Peter's plot against him. Putting on a show of favors on Aunt Mei can only be regarded as collecting some interest. When Xiao Xian joins Oscorp, with the help of Oscorp's connections and resources, he will show Peter what it means to calculate the cost of one's own actions. I'll talk to Peter. I roughly know what the kid is thinking. I'm really sorry for causing you trouble. I will try my best to reduce the impact of this matter on you. Aunt Mei was silent for a moment, then replied to Xiao Xian. Not to mention Peter, even Aunt Mei was amazed by Tomi's charm, so Aunt Mei also understood Peter's secret crush on Tomi. But this doesn't mean Peter can use such despicable means, especially the drugging of her, which Aunt Mei can't tolerate. If it weren't for Peter's deceased parents, Aunt Mei would have called the police yesterday to have Peter sent to prison for reform. I hope so, because if he drugged Tomi or me, I think we would both choose to call the police without hesitation. Xiao Xian controlled the static electricity on his hands to disappear, fell from the ceiling, and replied to Aunt Mei at the same time. At present, Xiao Xian has not found any other uses for the adsorption ability except climbing walls, eliminating or generating static electricity to achieve tip discharge and attract small pieces of paper. Firstly, the static electricity generated is not strong, so tricks like electrolyzing water cannot be performed. Secondly, it cannot leave the body, and static electricity is mainly generated by the hands and feet, while other parts of the body are generally static electricity. In other words, static electricity cannot be created through the air. If he had to say how else it could be developed, all Xiao Xian could think of for now was to use static electricity to increase the fun while driving, but it seemed like buying a toy could achieve the same effect, which was a bit unnecessary. Compared with the adsorption ability, Xiao Xian is more looking forward to the upcoming Tomi Super Regeneration, Modified Plus. The reward will be credited to his account after 7 days at around 10 o'clock this morning. With this ability, Xiao Xian will not have to worry about being caught and taken to a laboratory where he can neither escape nor die, or being used as a brain farm by zombies. Moreover, he does not need to burn his own body. With one cut, he can freely choose the reborn flesh and blood to serve as a teleportation skill. I'm really sorry. I will educate him properly and this kind of thing will not happen again. Aunt May replied to the message quickly. She knew the answer to this question well. If it was Fu Zhang or Xiao Xian who was drugged, they would definitely call the police. After all, they had no blood relationship with Peter, so there was no need to indulge him. Xiao Xian was not interested in how Aunt May educated Peter. For the time being, Xiao Xian's main task was the interview at Oscorp. As for whether Peter would do anything to Tommy, not to mention that Tommy had super regeneration, it would be difficult for her to do anything. Just looking at Tommy's true appearance, if Peter wanted to force something, once he discovered Tommy's true appearance, it would be hard to say whether it would be Tommy or Peter who would escape. With the help of Tommy, Xiao Xian put on his suit. Standing in front of the mirror, he looked at the tie that Tommy had tied for him and nodded with satisfaction. The craftsmanship was quite good and it looked much better than the one Xiao Xian tied himself. I'm going to the interview. Xiao Xian picked up his briefcase and said to Fu Zhang. Go ahead. You can do it. Fu Zhang raised her fist to cheer Xiao Xian up, and at the same time, she also helped to cheer him up. By the way, I have some breakfast. Do you want to bring some over to Aunt May to try? Just say you made it. A man who can make breakfast gets a lot of extra points. Your suggestion is very good. Xiao Xian picked up the car keys on the shoe cabinet, glanced at Tommy who looked expectant, and said, but I refuse. A warm-hearted man or something like that doesn't suit me. Besides, I don't have any intention of pursuing others. What about the domineering CEO style? Tommy showed off the black and white maid outfit she had placed behind the sofa pillow and said, I can wear this to the other side and say, this is the breakfast that Mr. Xiao prepared for you. How do you think it is? Doesn't it look good? I'm going to an interview. You're quite good at playing. Xiao Xian's mouth twitched, he didn't even notice when Tommy hid a black and white maid outfit behind the sofa pillow. Chapter 24. Interviewing a superhero. Before attending the interview at Oscorp, Xiao Xian prepared a bunch of questions and carefully selected templates online. For example, what do you think of overtime? What do you think you are still lacking in this position you applied for? If I hire you, how will you carry out your work? What can you bring to our company? And so on. As a result, when he arrived at Oscorp, Xiao Xian received an interview question. When you have an argument with someone, even if it's just a common disagreement, you tend to use violence to resolve the issue. A very suitable B, suitable C, not suitable D, not suitable at all. You have had thoughts of massacring passers-by. A very suitable B, suitable C, not suitable D, not suitable at all. You think you are the most noble being, and you are a completely different species from ordinary people. They should all worship you as their master, otherwise they deserve to die. A very suitable B, suitable C, not suitable D, not suitable at all. Looking at these questions, Xiao Xian fell into deep thought. As long as he was not a violent antisocial person, no, even if he was a violent antisocial person, as long as he knew what normal people would choose and was willing to disguise himself, he could easily pass this interview question. Okay. In less than 5 minutes, Xiao Xian finished answering the interview questions and handed the answers to the interviewer, a middle-aged man who looked a little fat. Well, okay. Seeing that all the answers were D, the interviewer nodded in satisfaction, then picked up Xiao Xian's resume and glanced at it, saying, next, show us your superpowers. Your power is super regeneration? Right. Here. Xiao Xian thought that he had clearly attached video materials when he sent his resume, but forget it, he had already prepared it. Do you mind if I take a knife out of my briefcase? Okay. The interviewer glanced at the armed security guard next to him and nodded. Taking out a fruit knife from his bag, Xiao Xian cut a long cut on his arm. Then, under the watchful eyes of the interviewer, security guard, and Xiao Xian, the wound healed within half a minute. The recovery speed has increased so much? Looking at his own healing speed, Xiao Xian raised his eyebrows. During the interview, he did not confront his idol's fans, so theoretically his healing ability should have decreased a lot. How come it has increased so much? This effect is better than scolding a group of fans until they break down. What did I do? I shouldn't have provoked anyone to make him hate me so much. Could it be Peter? Suddenly Xiao Xian thought of Peter who sent his aunt away. However, Peter took the initiative to do this. Why did he hate me so much? But it seems that the strong hatred of an individual is much more effective than the weak hatred of a group. My regenerative ability can not only regenerate all kinds of injuries, but even if I suffer a fatal injury, I can recover through super regeneration. Xiao Xian put away the knife and explained lightly, as if it was not him who had just been cut with a large wound. Your ability to save your life is indeed good, but do you think this ability is compatible with your identity as a superhero? In other words, compared with other superheroes, what is your innovation and core competitiveness? The interviewer nodded. This regeneration speed is of the very fast type and is also very practical, but the problem is that other superheroes have a main ability with regeneration, while Xiao Xian only has regeneration, and he does not have much combat power. The regeneration man or something like that sounds very ordinary and does not make him feel bright at all. It is difficult to attract fans. I also have an ability of adhesion, similar to Spider-Man's ability to climb walls. Xiao Xian stood up and climbed up the wall, demonstrating his new superpowers. This is good and quite entertaining, but IMHO, this level of superpower is still not enough. It didn't make me feel bright. I think the setting of regeneration and wall climbing is unlikely to attract enough fans' attention. The interviewer stroked his beard. A spawn that could climb walls was just average. At least he had no desire to attract any attention. I think I have great potential to attract fans. For example, I can shoot videos of all kinds of extreme challenges, such as lava diving in a volcano, skydiving without a parachute, bungee jumping without a rope, stewing yourself in a cauldron, and the consequences of humans withstanding 500 rounds of Gatling bullets. Hearing this, Xiao Xian realized that the interviewer was not concerned about the strength of the superpower, but the ability to attract fans. He immediately thought of a way to attract attention. Also, if I encounter natural disasters like nuclear power plant leaks, wildfires, tsunamis, etc., I can go live and save people. I'm not afraid of death, injury, or radiation. I think this can attract fans. If things don't work out, I can donate my organs every now and then, which will increase the topic. Anyway, during the interview, all kinds of promises were made first, and then things would change after they got the job. Xiao Xian did not hesitate to come up with all kinds of tricks, such as lava diving after they really got the job, and whoever wanted to do it could do it. When Xiao Xian gained other superpowers, he would have plenty of ways to attract attention. It's a pity that you don't go to the operation department. After hearing what Xiao Xian said, the interviewer's mouth twitched. The regeneration ability almost made this guy do something fancy, but then again, he really wanted to see lava diving, and withstanding 500 Gatling gun rounds. You have successfully convinced me. As you said, your ability has great potential for development. I even think that you are qualified to get a B-level superhero contract. I will recommend you to the boss. If you pass, you will become a B-level superhero of our Osborne group. The interviewer extended his hand and shook it with Xiao Xian. I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you. Xiao Xian shook the interviewer's hand. This person seemed to really believe it. Would he really urge him to jump into the lava in the future? He was worth tens of millions now, but he had no intention of jumping into the lava to attract attention. How painful it would be to be burned by the lava. Please wait for a moment. Another superhero will come for an interview. Wait for the result of her interview to come out. If she passes, I will take you to meet the boss. Your final rating will also be determined by the boss. The interviewer said with a smile. Boss? Is that Mr. Norman Osborn? Xiao Xian was quite interested in Norman Osborn. Since tasks and rewards could be obtained from the superhero Peter Parker, there was no reason why tasks could not be obtained from the supervillain Mr. Norman Osborn. That's right. The boss takes the business of the superhero company very seriously. He personally serves as the president and chairman of the branch, and he has the final say on the recruitment and rating of every superhero. The interviewer nodded, looking very proud. Thanks to the boss's attention, the superhero agency has received a lot of resources and has a much higher voice in the group than other companies. Chapter 25. Result. The next interview didn't make Xiao Xian wait too long. After sitting for about 20 minutes, the interviewer walked in with a blonde girl with a ponytail wearing jeans and a jacket. Let's go and meet the boss together. The interviewer said to Xiao Xian standing at the door. Hello, who are you? Following the interviewer, Xiao Xian looked at the blonde beauty beside him and already had a guess in his mind. He originally thought it was a DC mixed with Marvel, and the character was set to be in the Boys Patrol. Who would have thought that a character from the patrol would suddenly appear, and now the plot, which had already gone astray, had gone even further. You can call me Xing Guang. Xing Guang waved his hand in a friendly manner. My name is Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian responded with a friendly wave and a smile. Although Starlight's abilities are average, for Xiao Xian, who currently does not have combat superpowers, if he can unleash Starlight's superpowers, whether it's physical strength, defense, or the ability to absorb light and electrical energy and convert them into light shocks, they will all be very good. And even though he doesn't perform so well on TV, Starlight is strong enough to lift a car with ease, and his defense is strong enough to withstand bullets, which actually means his defense is better than Spider-Man's. Of course, this comparison may be a bit bullying. After all, strictly speaking, Spider-Man doesn't seem to have any defensive superpowers at all, and both a knife and a bullet can break his defense. Because they had not officially started work yet and the interview was not complete, Xiao Xian and Xing Guang did not talk much. They followed the interviewer in silence and took the elevator all the way to a luxurious office on the top floor of the building. "Boss, the person is here." After knocking on the door and getting permission, the interviewer pushed open the door, walked into the luxurious office, and said to Norman Osborn, who was sitting in the boss's chair. Following the interviewer into the luxurious office, Xiao Xian couldn't help but be shocked when he saw the blonde beauty with her hand on Norman Osborn's shoulder. If she was not mistaken, this beauty, isn't this the White Queen Emma Grace Frost? Why did she come to Osborn and hook up with Norman Osborn? While Xiao Xian was looking at Queen Bai also looked up and looked at Xiao Xian and Xing Guang with interest. Seeing this, Xiao Xian hurriedly recalled the scene of playing cards with Aunt May yesterday. The White Queen has telepathic abilities. No matter whether he knows the White Queen and knows all the plots, or he is a time traveler, or he has a system and has a Tomy at home, he cannot let the White Queen know anything. It is difficult to empty your mind and deliberately stop thinking about one thing, but if you concentrate on something else, especially something exciting, it will be much easier to stop thinking about it. In fact, it doesn't have to be the content of the card game. The multiplication table or the alphabet can also have the same effect, but that would be too deliberate. It's better to be more natural than the content of the card game. Although it's a bit perverted, it's normal for men to be a little perverted. In addition, Xiao Xian felt that the White Queen couldn't just stare at the card game all the time, because her mind was full of card skills and the content of the game. Could she have any information? She didn't know that she was actually very special. She couldn't just stare at the game just because she loved watching the card game, unless she was also a pervert. The White Queen glanced at the stars and instantly read the girl's thoughts. She was a naive girl who really wanted to be a superhero to help others fulfill her mother's wishes. She seemed very gullible and could be easily exploited. Then Queen Bai read Xiao Xian's mind again. What she read made Queen Bai's mouth twitch, and she almost couldn't maintain her dignified smile. Interview. Meeting the company's big boss. What the hell is this guy doing? His mind is full of pornographic garbage at this time? And it's okay if it's just garbage, but he also thinks he is so awesome? From 5 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning, no rest in between? Is this guy a virgin? No, a virgin also knows about CDs, right? Pursing her lips, the White Queen stopped reading Xiao Xian's mind. He looked quite handsome, but she didn't expect him to be so wretched and lewd in reality. It seemed that if that bitch Mystique just beckoned her, he would tell her anything. She should not be entrusted with such an important task. What superpowers do they have? Norman Osborn asked the interviewer after taking a puff of his cigar and touching the White Queen's smooth hand. This is Starlight. She has experience as a superhero in the countryside. She is considered a local child star. She can absorb electrical energy and light energy and convert them into light wave shocks. In addition, she can easily lift a car and block bullets with her body. The interviewer introduced Starlight. Also, Miss Starlight's appearance is very pleasing. She should be very popular with male audiences. I suggest giving Miss Starlight a B&O contract. Well, not bad, dear, what do you think? Norman Osborn nodded and asked the White Queen again. I think this little sister is very cute, and her abilities sound very cool. She should be very popular. I think she can be given an A-level contract. The White Queen looked at Xing Guang and smiled. Xing Guang also smiled gratefully when she heard the White Queen speaking well of her, thinking that this big sister is really a nice person. I felt more satisfied after reading the White Queen. It is good and worth cultivating. Since you have asked, my dear, I will just give you an A-level contract. Norman Osborn tapped the cigar ash and nodded with satisfaction. This girl is really good. If she is trained, she has the potential to become America's sweetheart. Maybe she can become a hit. What about this one? Norman Osborn then asked the interviewer. This is Xiao Xian. He has super regeneration and the ability to climb walls like Spider-Man. Although his abilities are not outstanding, he is very creative. He can shoot videos of various extreme challenges, such as diving into volcanic lava, skydiving without a parachute, bungee jumping without a rope, etc. I believe this can also attract a lot of attention. The interviewer introduced Xiao Xian and said, I suggest giving Mr. Xiao Xian a B-level contract. Similar to Spider-Man. Norman Osborn frowned when he heard this. The thought of Spider-Man immediately made his mood take a sharp turn for the worse. That hateful thief not only stole the necklace left by his ex-wife, but also stole some of his contraband versions of party drugs and reported them to the police, which made Osborn very unhappy. Fortunately, Osborn had his own people in the New York Police Department who helped stop the car, otherwise the stock price of Osborn's company might have been affected. Norman Osborn was also somewhat dissatisfied with Xiao Xian because of his hatred for his family. It happened that the group was secretly developing a new genetic drug that could give people extremely strong regenerative abilities. In Osborn's eyes, Xiao Xian's superpowers were really worthless. Honey, what do you think? After taking a puff of his cigar, Norman Osborn did not express his dissatisfaction directly, but habitually passed the buck to others, letting others be the bad guys. It sounds so scary and cruel. I don't think that kind of attention-grabbing method is a good idea. I think a C-level contract will be enough. The White Queen shook her head with a frightened expression. Since you said so, dear, let's have a C-level contract. What do you think, Xiao Xian? We won't force you if you disagree. Norman Osborn took a puff of his cigar and said, his subtext was actually to say that Xiao Xian should just not come, so as not to be upset by seeing him. Ah! I think it's okay. Xiao Xian's mind was full of the content of the card game. In fact, he didn't hear clearly what everyone said at all. When others asked him how, he answered subconsciously. Anyway, a verbal answer had no legal effect. At worst, he could regret it later. Besides, this crappy company has the White Queen. Xiao Xian doesn't want to stay here anymore. He'll just run away and change to another company. Whatever you say now is fine. Yes, 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 yes. Anyway, he doesn't plan to sign a contract. Not to mention unpaid overtime, he'll even be fine without salary. So be it. Hearing Xiao Xian agree to his conditions, Norman Osborn couldn't go back on his word. At worst, he would just not see him anymore and pretend he didn't exist. Anyway, he was just a C-class superhero, and it wouldn't cost much. Besides, Norman Osborn believed that the interviewer would handle the matter well. Thinking of this, Norman Osborn waved his hand and asked everyone to go out, not to interfere with him and the White Queen, and to do what they like. Chapter 26. I want to go to work. Coming out of Norman Osborn's office, the interviewer happily congratulated Starlight. The status of an A-class superhero in the company was no lower than his, and Starlight was appreciated by the boss's wife. This alone was worth his trying to please. As for Xiao Xian, the interviewer deliberately ignored him. A C-level superhero was nothing worth paying attention to. The key point was that Xiao Xian was also disliked by the boss and the boss's wife. This alone was enough for the interviewer to keep his distance from Xiao Xian. Although Xiao Xian didn't hear the boss's subtext, as a veteran bootlicker in the workplace, the interviewer had the instinct to guess the boss's intentions, so he could hear it immediately. Although the interviewer was optimistic about Xiao Xian's abilities and believed he was a very thoughtful person, what good would it be if he offended the boss? Jack, go take Xiao Xian to sign the C-level contract. From now on, he will be under your care for the C3 template. The interviewer took out his cell phone and sent a message to his subordinates, saying that as the boss confidant, the interviewer felt that if the boss disliked someone, he could not pretend not to know, even if the boss did not say it explicitly, and it was basic operation to trip him up or set a trap for him. The C3 contract is a type of contract that is designed to cheat people. Not only does it have a huge penalty for breach of contract, but it also does not require the company to provide him with publicity and promotional resources. In other words, the company can completely hide him since his basic salary is not much anyway. At that time, Xiao Xian would either have to sell everything he had and borrow money from everywhere to pay the penalty, or waste a whole year. This was because it was Xiao Xian's first agency contract, and the law stipulated that the longest contract could only be signed for 1 year. Otherwise, if he signed for 5 or 10 years, Xiao Xian would not be able to make his debut or do other jobs if he did not pay the money. He could only wait for the contract to end. Basically, the best years of his life were wasted. Wait here for a while, someone will take you to sign the contract. The interviewer said to Xiao Xian coldly, and then showed a flattering smile and said to Xing Guang, Miss Xing Guang, I will take you to sign the contract. Aren't we signing together? The innocent Xing Guang asked subconsciously before she could react. Grade A and Grade C are, of course, different. Grade C basically has a fixed template, while every Grade A contract is customized. Please come over here, we will discuss the specific contract. The interviewer said and left with Xing Guang. Xiao Xian, who was left in the same place, didn't know why he changed from B level to C level, but he was not angry. Instead, he was very happy, because at this time, a familiar system prompt sound appeared in Xiao Xian's mind. Ding mission, try to figure out the boss's intentions. Triggered. Task name, try to figure out your boss intentions. Mission description, because of Norman Osborn's dislike, you are targeted by the interviewer Ike Myers, who is good at guessing the boss's intentions, and asked to sign a cheating C3 contract. As an excellent worker, how will you deal with this situation? Can you reverse Ike's attitude towards you? Mission requirements, sign Oscorp's S-Class superhero contract to let Ike know who is the boss. Mission reward, Green Goblin Super Reaction, revised. Green Goblin Super Reaction, modified. The improved Green Goblin Super Reaction removes the negative effects that affect your mind and create a second personality. It can greatly strengthen your nervous system, greatly improve your reaction ability, and even allow you to dodge bullets. At the same time, Xiao Xian took a look at the task log. When his mind was full of the card game, the system also gave him a task, but Xiao Xian was afraid that the White Queen would read his mind and he was so focused on the card game that he didn't notice it. Ding mission, turn over and become the master. Triggered mission name, become the master. Mission description, because of Spider-Man's same suction skill, you are hated by your boss who hates you and your family. Under the boss's instruction, your superhero contract is changed from B level to C level. How will you deal with this situation? Refuse to be exploited and leave directly, or pretend to agree and lurk in Oscorp to take revenge, turn the tables and become the master, step by step, climb to the top. Mission requirements, become the chairman and president of Osborn Group. Mission reward, Green Goblin Super Strength, modified. Green Goblin Super Strength, modified. The improved Green Goblin Super Strength has removed the negative effects that can affect your mind and create a second personality. It can greatly strengthen your muscles, allowing you to have the ability to lift 9-10 tons. Originally, Xiao Xian was planning to run away because Oscorp had the White Queen, but on his first day at work he was given 2 tasks. Xiao Xian suddenly thought that it was not impossible. The C3 contract can be squeezed as much as possible. Xiao Xian can afford the penalty anyway, and it will be upgraded to S level sooner or later. Think about it carefully, isn't it just the White Queen's telepathy? It's not impossible to defend against it even if you are unintentional. There are many telepathic abilities in Marvel DC, so it's useless to just hide. Especially since Professor X here is probably also evil. Instead of hiding and waiting to meet Professor X in the future and have him see all his underwear, it is better to try with the White Queen now to see if he can get her telepathic ability. Hello, you are the new superhero Xiao Xian, right? Come to our side to sign the contract, and you will follow me from now on, and we will work together. Let's exchange contact information. Jack, dressed in a suit, came to Xiao Xian, pulled Xiao Xian up and said happily. Jack naturally knew what the C3 contract stood for. Since Xiao Xian was arranged to sign the C3 contract, he must have offended Boss Ike. Since Jack took over, he must have tricked Xiao Xian into signing the C3 contract. If I don't behave nicer now, Xiao Xian will not sign the contract and run away. Boss Ike will want to deal with Xiao Xian but he won't be able to do that and he will blame me. What should I do if he makes things difficult for me? Okay. Xiao Xian was equally impatient. The salary didn't matter, and the contract profit was not a big problem either. The main thing was that Xiao Xian wanted to come to work, and he couldn't wait. Xiao Xian is now full of motivation after completing this task. After exchanging contact information with Jack, Xiao Xian followed Jack to sign the contract. The smile on Jack's face disappeared immediately after Xiao Xian signed, and he turned into a cold and arrogant person. Okay, go back and wait for notification. Can I start work today? Xiao Xian asked impatiently. He had been here for the whole morning and had only completed 2 tasks. If he stayed for another afternoon, Xiao Xian didn't dare to think about it. Diamondization, starlight superpowers, telepathy, any of which he could get would be great. Besides, isn't this guy's face changing too fast? Have you ever considered going to the east to learn about intangible cultural heritage? No hurry, you still have to go through training before you can become a superhero. Do you understand what training means? Jack looked up at Xiao Xian calmly, and said with a proud expression, "Anyway, wait for my notice." After looking around the room and confirming that there were no cameras, Xiao Xian took out a wad of cash from his bag and put it on Jack's desk. Jack accepted the cash calmly and immediately smiled, "Don't worry, brother. I will arrange training for you as soon as possible. I will let you know when it's ready. By the way, would you like some coffee, brother? I'll make you a cup." Chapter 27. The adult world is so cruel. After confirming that he was indeed unable to go to work for the time being and that C-class superheroes had to undergo unified training before they could debut, Xiao Xian had no choice but to leave. Jack, who had received the money, insisted on seeing Xiao Xian off, and only gave up after Xiao Xian repeatedly refused. In the parking lot, Xiao Xian also met Xing Guang, who was surrounded by a group of people and signed by the interviewer Ike. Hi, Xiao Xian greeted Xing Guang warmly when he saw her. He wanted to get to know her first. If he had more contact with her, he might get a mission that day. Congratulations on getting the A-level contract. We will be colleagues from now on. Do you want to have dinner together? Hello, Xing Guang also greeted him. When he heard Xiao Xian's words, he was about to agree, but Ike gently touched his arm. Thinking of Ike's advice before, Xing Guang was silent for a moment and then refused, "Forget it, maybe next time." "Okay then, let's talk about it next time we have a chance." Xiao Xian waved his hand and didn't insist. Since he had been rejected, he let it go. Looking at Xiao Xian's departing back, Ike whispered, "Miss Xing Guang, your decision is wise. Although you two came here together, you are an A-level superhero. Once you debut, you will be able to achieve a class leap, drive a luxury car, live in a mansion, and enjoy a life of being the center of attention. And Xiao Xian is only a C-class superhero, and he is disliked by the boss. It may be difficult for him to debut in the future, and he can only be a salaried worker with a fixed salary. Your identities and statuses will be very different in the future, so it is better to have as little contact with him as possible. It would be bad if he implicates you and causes you to be disliked by the boss." "But I feel this is not good," Xing Guang said while pursing her lips. She felt as if she had become the kind of person she once hated the most, a power-hungry person. That's what growing up is. The adult world is so cruel, Miss Starlight, Ike comforted. "I understand. I will keep my distance from Xiao Xian. You just need to drop me off here. Go back quickly. I will drive back by myself." Waving his hand, Xing Guang asked everyone to go back. Looking at their departing backs, Xing Guang hesitated for a moment and then chased in the direction Xiao Xian left. "Xiao Xian!" Seeing Xiao Xian's back, Xing Guang immediately shouted. "What's wrong?" Xiao Xian asked puzzledly as he looked at Xing Guang who was running over alone. "You didn't sign the C-level contract, did you?" Xing Guang bit her lip and decided to say, "The interviewer Ike told me that the boss of Oscorp doesn't like you. There are many pitfalls in the C-level contract they gave you. Once you sign it, you will either have to pay a huge penalty or they will hide you. I've already signed it." Xiao Xian now understood why Jack didn't let him go to work and even delayed his training. It turned out that he had no intention of letting him debut from the beginning. No wonder it was called a deceptive C3 contract. Xiao Xian read it for a long time and couldn't see any problems except that the penalty for breach of contract was a bit high. Now it seems that he didn't know enough about their various tricks to defraud people. But it's not a big problem. It's okay if he is not allowed to debut but just receive training. As long as he can stay in Oscorp and let Xiao Xian pay for the work, it's fine. As for the subsequent adjustment of the contract and the appointment as the president of the Osborne Group, there will naturally be plenty of ways to deal with it when he becomes stronger. If it really doesn't work, Xiao Xian will let the Osborne family leave in an orderly manner, and then the boss who is hostile to him will naturally no longer exist. "What do you mean you've already signed it?" Xing Guang asked anxiously. "Then you're in trouble. Did you sign a long-term or short-term contract? According to the regulations, if this is your first time signing an agency contract, you can only sign for a year at most. I signed for 1 year. Xiao Xian shrugged. That's fine. Remember this year. They will definitely use various excuses such as training and lack of preparation to prevent you from making your debut. They will keep delaying until the time of contract renewal. Then they will pretend to let you debut soon. You must not renew the contract at that time, otherwise you will be put on ice for a long time. Xin Guang breathed a sigh of relief when he heard this, but at the same time he did not forget to remind Xiao Xian. Thanks, you're a very nice person, but it's okay, the penalty is only $1 million, just work here first, as long as you can learn something. Upon hearing this, Xiao Xian thanked him. No matter what his plan was, at least Xin Guang was doing this for his own good. This was what a superhero should be like. After being here for so long, Xiao Xian never expected that he would see what a superhero should be like in the role of the Black Patrol. Only $1 million. Xin Guang was stunned when she heard that. Her entire family's income for 10 years was not even $1 million. After finding the car and taking out the Porsche key, Xiao Xian opened the door and looked at the confused Xin Guang and said, "Yeah, at most I'll just have to pay the penalty. It's no big deal. By the way, do you want me to give you a ride?" "No. I drove here. The Passat next to you is it?" Watching Xiao Xian skillfully starting the Porsche, Xin Guang suddenly realized that she seemed to be worried for nothing. She originally thought that everyone was an employee who came to the Osborne Group for an interview. She was also worried that Xiao Xian would be exploited by the Osborne Group, and in order to avoid wasting time, he could only borrow money everywhere to pay the penalty for breach of contract. It turned out that Xiao Xian was a rich second generation who came to experience life. He was the one who came to the interview in a Porsche. When Xin Guang parked the car, he thought it belonged to a director of a certain company, but it turned out to be Xiao Xian's car. If he can't be a superhero, he can only go home and inherit the family property, right? Goodbye then. Let's have dinner together sometime. Xiao Xian looked at Xin Guang who was standing there in a daze and waved goodbye. Goodbye. Watching Xiao Xian leave, Xin Guang silently took out his Passat car keys. On the other side, time went back to when Xiao Xian left home. Peter, who had been hiding in the dark and observing the situation through the corridor camera, immediately left the hotel. Peter glanced at his own door, not daring to face Aunt May's anger, and knocked on Xiao Xian's door in trepidation and expectation. After waiting for a long time, Tommy didn't come to open the door. Peter understood that Tommy was avoiding him, and his resentment towards Xiao Xian deepened. It was all Xiao Xian's fault for asking Tommy to stay away from him. Peter knocked on the door again, but Tommy still didn't open it for him. Damn him! After cursing Xiao Xian, Peter looked at the closed door. Although he could also pick the lock, using this key to pick the lock and get in would not only lower his rating in Tommy's heart, but also put Peter in a passive position if Tommy called the police. Fortunately, Peter had a backup plan, but when he looked at the tightly closed door of his own room, he knew that the Spider-Man uniform was still hidden in the ceiling of Peter's bedroom. If he went in to get it, he would definitely be scolded by Aunt May, or even beaten. Peter has the ability to climb walls and use spider webs, so it's not impossible for him to go in through the window, but it's broad daylight now, and he's not even wearing a uniform. It would be a bit unrealistic to go in directly, and he would be easily seen. You know, Spider-Man is still involved in several theft and intentional injury cases. Chapter 28. Especially the facts. After careful consideration, Peter finally couldn't resist Tommy's temptation and decided to face Aunt May's wrath. In fact, it is not impossible to wear a mask and sneak into his room at night, but then Xiao Xian and Fu Zhang will live together again tonight. When Peter thought of this, the flame of jealousy burned fiercely in his heart, and he could not bear it at all. Peter will expose Xiao Xian's true face in front of Fu Zhang today. He can't let this cheating scumbag defile his goddess. Peter carefully pushed the door open, and as soon as he entered, a slipper was thrown directly at his face. Peter, who had spider reflexes, could actually dodge it, but in order to calm Aunt May's anger, Peter chose to take it with his face. How dare you come back? Picking up the broom, Aunt May walked towards Peter angrily. I was wrong, Aunt May, don't hit me in the face. The broom fell like raindrops, but in fact it didn't hit Peter very hard. Peter covered his face with his hands, ran back to his room despite Aunt May's attack, and closed the door with his backhand. Get out here! Are you crazy? You're so bold! You actually drugged me. If it weren't for your parents, I would have called the police yesterday and sent you to jail. Aunt May knocked on the door in frustration, while Peter raced against time to take the Spider-Man suit out of the ceiling and hid it in his school bag. After getting familiar with the two, Peter opened the door again, and was greeted by the same beating with the broom. Aunt May, don't be angry. Didn't you always say that Mary Jane is not suitable for me and asked me to find another girl? I am just doing what you want. Peter grabbed the broom and tried to argue. I asked you to find a good girl, but you found a girl who was already in a relationship and living with someone else. And you even drugged me. Peter Parker. Do you know what you are doing? Aunt May tried to pull out the broom, but found that she couldn't pull it out at all. Peter's strength was undoubtedly greater than hers. In fact, even if Peter didn't have superpowers, Aunt May couldn't be a match for Peter, a young and strong man. Seeing this scene, Aunt May felt a little melancholy. There was no doubt that Peter had grown up, at least physically, but psychologically and in his heart, Peter's actions were not at all what an adult should do. If this continues, sooner or later Peter will pay a huge price for his childishness and naivety. The price may be money, a bad relationship, a beating, or even being sent to prison. If the situation is bad enough, it may even be Peter's life. Seeing Peter's unrepentant look, Aunt May couldn't help but tremble with anger. I know I'm pursuing love. I promise this is the only and last time. When I catch up with Tommy next door, all this will be worth it. She is my true love, Aunt May. Peter said righteously, as if true love is invincible. Fuck your true love. Last month, when I found out that you used the living expenses I gave you to buy gifts for Mary Jane, you still said that Mary Jane was your true love. Last week, you excitedly asked me if I could take Mary Jane on a trip. Now you're telling me that Tommy is your true love. Aunt May spat. She was not a 3-year-old child. Tommy had only moved here a few days ago. Peter and her had said at least 10 sentences. Peter was simply attracted by Tommy's beauty and wanted her body. Before, I was too young and didn't know how to judge people, so I fell in love with Mary Jane. This time is different. I am sure that Tommy is the one I want to spend the rest of my life with. I will regret it for the rest of my life if I miss her. Peter said, putting down the broom while Aunt May wasn't paying attention, and ran to the door to run away. Don't do anything illegal to Xiaoxian or Fu Zhang, or I won't be able to save you if they call the police. Seeing that Peter refused to repent, Aunt May had no choice but to persuade him, don't expect Fu Zhang to wait for you. When you get out of prison, their children might run away. I know. I know what's going on. Patting his chest to show that he knew what's going on, Peter went out with his backpack on his back. After going out, Peter did not run downstairs, but ran upstairs. In the living room, Tommy, who was watching a TV series, suddenly frowned. The next second, a Spider-Man in a red and blue spider uniform came in from the balcony window swinging on spider silk. Hello, beautiful lady. Peter landed accurately on the coffee table, struck a handsome landing pose, and then greeted Tommy in a low voice. Spider-Man. Tommy frowned. Where did she reveal her flaws? Thinking carefully, it seemed that there were indeed many flaws, but why did the superhero target her at this time? If it was any other prey, Tommy would definitely give up and run away, but Xiao Xian was the most perfect prey she had ever met, and it was absolutely impossible for her to give up. Even if it means risking being locked up in a laboratory and being dissected by scientists, Tommy will never give up Xiao Xian. If he is snatched away and ruined by other Tommys, she will regret it for the rest of her life. Don't worry, beautiful lady. I'm not here to steal anything. That's all slander against me in the newspapers. This time, a friend of mine asked me to deliver something. When Peter saw Tommy's face change drastically, he did not think that Tommy was actually a monster. Instead, he thought that Tommy was scared by the fact that he had a history of burglary and was wanted by the police, so he hurriedly explained. If the burglary was just a false accusation, Peter might not be so sensitive as to think of what to write based on Tommy's excessive reaction to the superhero, but the burglary was a fact, and Peter felt very guilty. It was all the fault of the unscrupulous media. How could the news be broadcast randomly? Especially the facts, how could they be said casually? Spider-Man's reputation was ruined. Peter decided to steal things from the news company one day to retaliate against their slander against him. Ah! Delivering something. Tommy, who was originally prepared to transform and fight, was stunned. Why did the development of this matter differ from what she expected? This is the video evidence of your boyfriend having sex with May Parker yesterday. Spider-Man Peter Parker handed a hard drive to Tommy. I have to say it, miss. Your boyfriend's character is really worrying. He has a girlfriend as beautiful as you, but he still chooses to cheat. I despise such people the most. Spider-Man took out a few printed screenshots from his bag and showed them to Tommy. Look at this posture, I can't bear to watch it, he is really too much, how can there be such a man, but Miss Tommy, don't be too sad, not all men will cheat, there are still loyal men in this world. Chapter 29. Spider-Man's Revenge. Oh, this. Tommy looked at a few screenshots, then at the hard drive in her hand, and then at Spider-Man, whose face almost had "I am the loyal man" written on it. So he was not here to arrest her? But a bootlicker? One of her admirers, you should have said it earlier. Tommy is very experienced in how to torture her admirers. Besides, isn't this Peter Parker next door? Although he lowered his voice, Tommy has lived for so many years and is very experienced. Although she didn't notice it at first, she could still hear Peter's constant chattering later. It just so happens that Xiao Xian has never fallen in love with her, which makes Tommy's recent desire for torture somewhat unsatisfied. And then a superhero toy happens to be delivered to her door, so don't blame Tommy then. For men who are not in love with her, Tommy will use all kinds of means to seduce them, but for men who are already in love with her, all she has to do is torture them. It would be troublesome if she seduced others and was discovered by Xiao Xian, but it would be okay if she tortured others, pushed them away and was seen by Xiao Xian. Fu Zhong had already discovered that Xiao Xian's bad taste in this regard was even better than hers. When he has nothing to do, Xiao Xian's favorite thing to do is to criticize his idol and watch other fans go crazy. When he went out, Xiao Xian was also keen on cheating people in various ways. He used Tommy's super charm to break up several couples. He also ran to other people's girlfriends with a complaining expression and said that the other party's boyfriend had been staring at Tommy many times. I know this is very difficult for you, Peter said as he stretched out his broad shoulders, wanting to take the opportunity to hug Tommy and lend her his broad shoulders. Take your dirty hands away. Tommy slapped Peter's hand away with a look of disgust. Not all men will cheat, Miss Tommy. I hope you won't hate all men because of this betrayal. Peter's hands were opened, and he was a little uncomfortable seeing Tommy in such a powerful manner for the first time. He was stunned for a moment. Peter thought it might be because Tommy suffered too great a blow. That's right, even a gentle girl like Tommy would find it difficult to maintain her emotions after being betrayed by her beloved boyfriend. But this just happens to be a good opportunity to take advantage of the situation. I will not cheat. I am a loyal man, Miss Tommy, I can swear. Peter looked at Tommy with disgust and hurriedly made his own promise. Now the most urgent thing is to draw a clear line between himself and a scumbag like Xiao Xian, so as not to let Miss Tommy hate him too much. Ah, is that so? I believe this. After all, a man like you will never find a girl who is willing to cheat with you, right? Tommy sat on the sofa, supporting her head with one hand, leaning back, crossing her legs and shaking her high heels, looking at the humble Spider-Man in front of her as if he were trash. You don't think that Xiao Xian cheated on you, so you have a chance, right? Please, have some brains, okay? How could I leave Xiao Xian because of this? Let alone cheating, even if Xiao Xian was married, I would choose to be his lover instead of a loser like you. Ah? What did you say? Are you kidding? Peter looked at Tommy in shock, who was looking at him with contempt. He said in disbelief that he even suspected that he was having a nightmare and hadn't woken up yet. I've made it very clear. Compared to Xiao Xian, you are nothing. Tommy grinned with her fiery red lips and mocked Peter, what? You sound like you're about to cry? Go back and cry to your mother. Oh, by the way, you don't look like you have a mother, right? Then go find your aunt? Oh, no, it seems your aunt is also with Xiao Xian. Or it was you, a loser, who sent her there personally, ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Peter Parker was raised by Aunt May. This was said by Xiao Xian and Tommy. With Tommy's experience, she naturally knew how to poke a scar to make it more painful. You. The death of his parents has always been the biggest scar in Peter's heart, and Aunt May is one of the people Peter cares about the most. When Peter heard Tommy revealing her scar like this, he couldn't help it. A strong murderous intent burst out, and Peter punched straight at Tomi's forehead. With Peter's current strength, if this punch hit Tomi, her head would definitely explode like a watermelon. Ah! At the last moment, Peter suddenly came to his senses. Why did he suddenly want to kill his beloved Tomi? Forcibly changing the direction of his fist, Peter punched the sofa, and the punch went straight through the sofa. Really a waste, no blood at all. Tomi didn't blink her eyes the whole time. She looked at the hole in the sofa next to her. She was not afraid at all. Xiao Xian was still interviewing her at this point, and Tomi just needed to be seen by Xiao Xian. With Tomi's current recovery speed, as long as she wanted, let alone having her head blown up, even if she was burned to ashes, her cells would float into the air and quickly regenerate into a complete her. How do you know I'm Peter's? Peter asked in a hoarse voice, his eyes red as he looked at Tomi, who made him feel so unfamiliar. Voice changers are not expensive, why don't you buy one for yourself? Stupid, have you spent all the money you stole? Standing up, Tomi stretched out her hand to pinch Peter's neck, and asked with a smile on her face. You were the one who sent the video link last night, right? Tell me, what were you thinking when you watched the video? Are you mentally ill? You can think of such a scheme to sow discord. In a sense, you are really a talent. When Peter thought of what happened last night, he couldn't help but clench his fist. For a moment, he had the idea of blasting Tomi's head, but in the end, Peter let go of his clenched fist, broke free from Tomi's hand, and walked to the balcony window in a daze. Taking a last look back at the completely unfamiliar Tomi, Peter jumped out of the window, wandering between the tall buildings with tears in his eyes. Peter was completely unable to connect the Tomi just now with the Tomi he had seen before, who was like a little bird in front of Xiao Xian, took the initiative to buy a watch, and was pushed to the ground and weakly begged to be pulled up. Is this really a person? Why is she so gentle in front of Xiao Xian, but in front of him, she pierces his wound with the sharpest knife? Is it really that bad of him? Peter couldn't help but doubt himself, but how good could Xiao Xian be? Cheating, eating gigolo, rude to Tomi. No matter how he thought about it, Peter could never imagine that he was so much worse than Xiao Xian. If Mary Jane had refused Peter's invitation in order to attend Harry Osborn's party, Peter could still understand it. After all, Harry Osborn was a rich, handsome, and wealthy second-generation man. Peter stole a large sum of money from the Osborn family in revenge, and then reported the criminal facts of his family to vent his anger. But Peter really couldn't understand Xiao Xian. In terms of money, how much money did Xiao Xian have to rent this house? His luxury car was borrowed, most likely from Tomi. The watch was also bought by Tomi. In terms of character, he was a cheating scumbag who used violence against Tomi. When it comes to handsomeness, Peter thinks he is not much worse than Xiao Xian. This made Peter very withdrawn, and he didn't even know how to take revenge. Stealing Xiao Xian's money? This man was a gigolo. Peter didn't steal Xiao Xian, but his goddess Fu Zhang. Smashing a car? The car belonged to Fu Zhang, and Xiao Xian only had a second-hand Volkswagen, which was almost covered in dust when it was parked in the parking space downstairs. Peter doubted whether Xiao Xian would find out that his car had been smashed a month after he smashed it. Beat Xiao Xian up? This seems possible. He actually dared to cheat on his goddess. It was unforgivable. Peter also wanted to beat Xiao Xian up for defiling Aunt May. After the fight, the goddess will definitely take good care of Xiao Xian, which makes Peter very unhappy. If only there was a way to make the goddess not take care of Xiao Xian. Although Peter felt that this was impossible, looking at Tomi's behavior, she refused to break up even though Xiao Xian cheated on her, and she stood in front of Tomi when someone pointed a gun at Xiao Xian, so how could he not take care of her when she was sick? Unless Xiao Xian died directly from the disease, no matter how seriously injured he was and admitted to the ICU, Fu Zhang would accompany him to the hospital. Wait! Peter swung on the spider silk and landed on the top of the bell tower. He held the bell tower with one hand and clenched his other hand into a fist. His red eyes looked at his fist with a hint of excitement. In Tomi's heart, as long as Xiao Xian is alive, Peter will never be able to defeat Xiao Xian and will never have a chance, but what if Xiao Xian dies? Chapter 30. Can you hurry up? Xiao Xian, who was driving home at this time, didn't know that Peter had planned to take a radical approach to solve the problem fundamentally. Of course, Xiao Xian didn't care much after knowing this. Now that the reward for Tomi's super regeneration, Modified Plus, had arrived, Xiao Xian could freely choose the flesh and blood to resurrect. Not to mention Peter, even if Superman came, it would be very troublesome to kill Xiao Xian completely. However, unlike Superman who found it difficult to kill Xiao Xian, on Camartage, an intern magician could easily kill Xiao Xian if he mastered methods such as soul shock. The scenery is so beautiful on a sunny day, with red flowers and green grass. I run forward happily, and I will never grow old until I have stepped on all the green mountains. After parking the car in the underground parking lot, Xiao Xian, who had completed 2 tasks in a row, walked away happily while turning the car key. Suddenly, Xiao Xian had a feeling that someone was watching him from behind, but when he turned around, he saw nothing. Could it be that someone from Oscorp came here to do background checks on me? Confused, Xiao Xian began to wonder whether he should go home or not. After all, there was a Tommy at home. Turning around, he saw Spider-Man hanging upside down in front of him. Aha, Spider-Man, what a coincidence, I meet you here. Pretending that he didn't know Spider-Man's true identity, Xiao Xian greeted him with a smile. You shouldn't have betrayed Tommy. Spider-Man, or Peter, did not use a false voice, but directly said to Xiao Xian with his original voice. It's hard for me to act like this. I don't know your true identity. Looking at Spider-Man, Xiao Xian didn't know how to answer. After a moment of silence, he said, Spider-Man is still worried about this. I'm Peter Parker, May Parker's nephew, and the person you told Tommy to stay away from. Peter took off the mask and fell down, no longer hanging upside down, and looked into Xiao Xian's eyes. Is it appropriate for you to reveal your identity like this? I remember you are wanted by the police. Aren't you afraid that I will report you? It was really a self-destructing truck. Xiao Xian was speechless as he looked at Peter, who took off his hood directly. I took off the hood so that you can die knowing full well. Peter said, pulling out a poisoned dagger from his bag and stabbing it directly into Xiao Xian's abdomen. Oh my god! It hurts. What did you put on the knife? It's so hot. Can't you just apply some numbing medicine? Peter's speed was too fast. Xiao Xian had no time to dodge, and had no intention of dodging. He only had time to exclaim and complain after being stabbed. It's a deadly poison. It can destroy your nervous system and internal organs. If you get even a little bit of it, you'll definitely die. Peter explained, and at the same time, he stirred it with his knife twice and said, Don't worry, go. I'll take good care of Tommy. It's not that anyone cares about Tommy. If you stab me in the heart with that knife, it will have the same effect. It hurts. Please stab me again, aim at the heart, and be quick and decisive. He grimaced in pain, probably because of his regenerative ability. The poison destroyed his body, and then he regenerated and repaired it. This process made Xiao Xian extremely painful. Xiao Xian actually brought a knife with him, but he didn't intend to use it to understand himself, nor did he intend to take the opportunity to stab Peter. Now Peter must be considered as Tommy's admirer. He can use him to complete the task first. There will be time for revenge later. Even if Peter dies, he can go to hell to find his soul and cut him into pieces or burn him in flames. Strange, the manual says that people will die within 5 seconds after being touched. Peter looked at Xiao Xian, who was grimacing in pain, and pulled out the knife, very confused. This was the super poison he stole from the Osborn family. If it weren't for the blood, Peter would have doubted whether he had stabbed it in. Maybe you bought expired medicine, right? Hurry up, buddy, don't count on your crappy medicine. Your heart, neck, brain, any part of your body is a fatal injury. Can you hurry up? If you don't stab me, I'll scream. You don't want others to see you at the crime scene, do you? Feeling that his wound was about to be regenerated by super regeneration, Xiao Xian hurriedly said, if Peter gave up now, wouldn't he have been stabbed in vain? It's really not easy to complete a task these days. Why was he threatened? Now it seemed that he was the one who killed the person, and Xiao Xian was the one who was killed, right? Holding a knife, Peter looked at Xiao Xian, who threatened him, and felt a little unconfident. Moreover, before, Peter had no real feeling about killing because his mind was full of Tommy. Now, seeing the blood spurting out and splashing on Peter's face, Peter began to be afraid. Unlike stealing, if he was discovered to kill someone for the sake of robbing a woman, his identity as a superhero would be completely ruined, and he might have nightmares for the rest of his life and go to jail for the rest of his life. Especially at the moment when the knife was pulled out, some of the blood even spurted into Peter's mouth. Peter's stomach cramped and a strong urge to vomit rushed to his brain. This scene was too exciting for Peter, who had just gained superpowers. Hurry up! What are you dilly-dallying about? Do you know why you don't have a partner? You're so slow in action, you know that. You can easily solve this with a knife, why are you dilly-dallying? Seeing Peter hesitating, Xiao Xian became anxious. No, my friend, this is murder. Can you be more serious? You can't even get over this psychological barrier, so why are you going down this path of self-destruction? Stop talking. Peter put a knife on Xiao Xian's neck. Promise me that you will leave America and Tommy from now on, then I might be able to spare your life. Oh my god, I have such a bad temper that I won't even bother to poach people, right? Seeing this, Xiao Xian knew where Peter's focus was. It had to be Tommy. Peter, you are a real bootlicker. You're leaving Tommy forever. I'm telling you, either you kill me right now, or I'm going to go back and make love with Tommy, just like I did with Aunt May at your house yesterday. And I'm going to move with Tommy, go abroad, and fly away. You'll never see Tommy again in your life, and you'll never even be able to hold Tommy's hand. Make your choice, you coward. In other words, he was worried that if he bumped into him, the mission would not be considered accomplished, otherwise Xiao Xian would have bumped into him himself. Xiao Xian was not afraid at all about Peter putting a knife on his neck, and even wanted to laugh. You forced me to do this. When Peter heard Xiao Xian mention what happened with Aunt May yesterday and that he was going to take Fu Zhang away, he could no longer bear it. With bloodshot eyes, he shouted and stabbed Xiao Xian in the heart with a knife, and twisted it hard. You will pay for this, I promise. Finally the mission was completed. Seeing the system prompt, Xiao Xian raised his middle finger and complained to Peter, the knife is poisoned, you are a real dog. Do you know that this is much more painful than a normal knife? You forced me to do this. I had no choice. I can't live without Tommy. Letting go of the knife, Peter murmured as he looked at Xiao Xian, who was raising his middle finger to him and covered in blood. We'll see each other soon. Xiao Xian smiled at Peter, feeling a strong dizziness. Then Xiao Xian's eyes went dark and he entered a strange space. In the space, there were light curtains of different sizes with different scenes in them. Xiao Xian had an epiphany that this was death in the conventional sense, which triggered the effect of Tommy's super regeneration, modified plus, and he could choose the flesh and blood core he wanted to be reborn into. What's outrageous is that among a bunch of light screens, Xiao Xian also saw a small light screen, which was an oral perspective. Not only could he see teeth and the like, but through his occasionally open mouth, Xiao Xian could also see his own body. If nothing unexpected happened, this was Peter stained with his own blood.